For what? For for what? For what? I didn't do anything. Well, the problem is I've got a lot of records that show that he's been doing nothing but lying. I have a lot of records that show that he's been doing nothing but lying. You can see those records on the door right here. Well, I don't know what these charges are. I don't know what these charges are. I don't know what you're here for. I didn't do anything yesterday except call the police when he wouldn't leave me alone. From whom?
We're going to have to go through all the tactical call-out. It's going to put you in danger as well as your puppies in danger.
What's the arrest for? What's the arrest for?
This is pretty simple to deal with.
Well, it's simple to deal with. It's simple to deal with. You're right. I'm going to D.C. tomorrow. I'm moving out to D.C.
I understand that you're going to D.C. tomorrow, man, but you have a warrant for your arrest that needs to be taken care of before you do that.
Then you can leave the warrant here and let me review it because I'm not opening the store. I don't know. You're not showing me anything. You're not showing me any paperwork. You're not showing me anything.
You want to see the warrant?
What I want you to leave me alone.
What the problem is if you don't answer the door, we're not going to be able to go away, and this something simple turns into a really big deal.
Well, look, the thing is, you're absolutely right. The thing is we are in this situation right now because CPS says that I tested positive for drugs when I didn't. This has become a recurring theme where we got CPS saying one thing, but I got medical records proving another. What could be simple, look. What's that?
Ma'am, we can't communicate with you if we can't hear you. I'm trying to be as honest as I can with you. We have a warrant for your arrest, and we cannot leave until you answer for the charges.
Well, I don't know what the charges are. I don't see a warrant. I'm asking you to show the warrant, and you're saying you got to go to the car to get it. You can slide the warrant under the door.
I can't slide the warrant in under the door, ma'am.
You can show me what the warrant is. You can show me what the warrant is for.
I've done this several times, okay? Look, Jennifer, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to be a very, it's not going to be nice.
It's already been a long time. It's already been not nice.
We have to, but if you can just open the door and let us talk to you.
I've been trying to talk to you for 15 months.
Come down, we've got a warrant for you, and we have to serve the warrant.
Okay, show me the warrant then. Go and get it, bring it to the door, and let me see the warrant. The last time cops came a few hours ago, they said they had paperwork. They didn't leave the paperwork. Show me the information, because the last time I opened the door for you guys claiming you had paperwork, you refused to bring it.
It was a protective order issued from the sheriff's department, which we also have a copy of at the station.
And why couldn't you leave it here?
Listen, Jennifer.
What?
Jennifer, listen.
Look, I don't know your intentions.
No, our intentions is we're trying to execute a warrant, okay? Your husband claimed that you put a knife to him.
Well, that's a lie. He's been doing a lot of lying.
Yeah, well...
Because I can show you the way that he broke down the door over here when I told him to leave me alone.
Yeah, he went down to the commissioner and got a warrant for you.
You see, that's the thing, is I've been trying to get the commissioner to give me a warrant against him, and they've been refusing. I called the police. Well, no. I called the police yesterday. When I called the police last night, I asked them, when I called the police last night, I told them that I wanted to file a petition, and the police officer refused. Now, the police officers can absolutely take and file for petitions, but they're refusing to do so.
So we can help you with that, but first we need to deal with this, so you can get back home, and I understand you want to go to D.C., right?
Yep.
Okay, well, as soon as we get this taken care of, is the quicker you can get back home, and you can make plans to go to DC.
Okay, you can leave that paperwork out there. I will call the commissioner's office. I will call the courts. I got a federal case going through right now. So I'll speak to my federal attorneys, and then we can deal with it that way. We can talk with the Department of Justice and go through them.
We can show you the warrant as soon as you open the door.
Well, I'm not opening this door without a warrant, without probable cause.
Yeah, well,
Because every single time I've opened the door for you, you guys have assaulted me.
well, we're not going to assault you, man.
Well, that's what's happened every single time I've opened this door for you guys, or almost every single time I've opened the door for you guys, and it hasn't been me. And I've opened the door because of what Scott has said.
Jennifer? Okay. Jennifer, I promise you, no one's going to assault you, okay?
Well, I've been getting a lot of broken promises. I've been getting a lot of lies, especially from random people who are showing up my door without permission, without consent.
Okay, Jennifer, trust me on this one, okay? You don't know me, I know that.
Yeah, see, that doesn't help.
I can give you my word, no one's going to harm you at all. We just need to take you down to the precinct because your husband got a warrant on you.
My daughter was taken from me in case of neglect. After she was taken, both she and I have developed seizures. Don't sit here and say that you want to help me and that you don't want to hurt me when the only reason why I'm having seizures is because of you. Yes.
What will happen? Let me tell you what's going to happen, okay? If you open this door...
If I open this door, it's going to be another situation where you say that you got a paper, you refuse to give me paperwork, I go to look to see it, and instead of you giving me the information, you try and drag me and pull me outside again. That's what's going to happen again. Fool me once, no. Nuh-uh.
I guarantee you're going to see all paperwork.
Then you get Matt Whitaker out here, or you get a federal judge and a DOJ, somebody from the DOJ out here. I'm not coming out here for Baltimore. I'm not opening this door from anybody from Baltimore County or Maryland State Police. There's a reason why you're currently being sued in federal court.
Jennifer, listen to me. Okay, this is going to escalate, and it's going to put...
This is already escalated.
Dogs in danger. It's not going to be a good thing.
This is already escalated. There are good people that have already been put in danger for no reason. I have done nothing to deserve this.
We can't leave until you come back to the precinct with us.
You can leave because you're not showing me that warrant.
We will show you. Actually, I got a relay coming right now for that warrant.
Well, see, here's the problem. You're here claiming that you got a warrant, but now you're sitting here and saying that you don't got a warrant, and you had to send somebody else to go and get it.
No, we have a warrant.
So why can't you show it to me? Why can't you slide it under the door and let me look at it?
That's what you really want to do.
I want to see this warrant before I open the door. And if you have it like you claim you do, this shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
But right now, we got one person saying one thing, and we got medical records and documentation saying another.
All right. I'm telling you, I'll give you my word on this.
Look, I don't care. Every single time I've opened the door for you guys, when Scott has called you, I have been assaulted, and I left covered in bruises, and I left bleeding. I'm not having that shit happen anymore. Don't sit here and threaten me. Don't sit here and threaten my family. Don't sit here and threaten my children because you're listening to a fucking lunatic. Scott McFall's whatever petition or whatever shit he might have written up right here disproves it. On one hand, he says that I haven't been trying to get help with this whole situation, but right here, this shows that I've gone out of my way to try and get help with this whole situation.
All right, Jennifer, I guarantee you just come outside, and we're gonna take you down to the precinct. No one will assault you. Okay?
I've gotten a lot of guarantees that if I work with you, that it's going to go the right way. My daughter's still in foster care. She's still having seizures. The Baltimore County and other states are still opening up fraudulent substance abuse cases. No, it's more lip service, more lies. Show me something substantial. Show me something provable. Because so far we've got medical records and proof on one side and lies on the other.
Okay. All right. So, will you? If I get a copy of this warrant to show you, will you come out then?
I want to first see the warrant, and I want to be able to verify its legitimacy. I'm not going to just come out and open the store. I'm going to need to be able to verify its legitimacy.
It's a real warrant.
Okay, well, if you don't have it, you're saying that you got it, but you're not willing to show me a copy?
Jennifer, this is the deal. What I'll do is I'm getting the warrant relayed up here. You can take a look at it. All right? Okay, Jennifer?
I'm listening.
Take a look at it. And then will you promise me after you look at it?
I'm not making any promises for anything. No. I've been getting lied to.
But Jennifer, I am not lying to you when I tell you we are not leaving until you come out. And the problem is the longer that you stay in there, the more it escalates. And then I got to call out other people involved.
Call out.
Comes out here, and it's a big deal. Okay?
Call who you need to. Make it as big of a deal as you need to. I need to make sure that you're done trafficking and abusing children. I need to make sure that you're done abusing families. So let's make it as big of a deal as you want. The state wanted to target a journalist. Let's go. Let's go. You wanted to target a journalist? Let's go. Call as many people as you want. Call as much of a backup as you want. I am not opening this door for you. You wanted to target a journalist? Let's go. Call as much of a backup as you want.
Jennifer,
I'm not coming out there.
even if I show you the warrant,
I want to see the warrant. I want to read it. I want to be able to verify it. That's the key thing, is we need to be able to verify it. And right now, every single time I've tried to get verification, it's been bunk.
okay. All right. Well, so you don't care if I show you the warrant? You won't come out? Is that the bottom?
I want to see the warrant and I want to verify its legitimacy.
Okay. How are you going to do that? Because the courthouse is closed now.
Well, then you should have come out sooner because luckily there are judges that are reachable in off hours.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Luckily there are judges who are reachable in off hours.
I still didn't understand what you just said. I'm sorry.
Luckily there are judges who are reachable in off hours.
Oh, okay. So do you have their phone numbers? Because I don't.
I have quite a few phone numbers of quite a few people who are reachable in off hours.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna get the warrant up to you so you can look at it, but we'll give you a few minutes.
You can email it to me. Scott has my email address.
Email you the warrant?
Email it to me so I can review it.
Okay. Well, I think we're just gonna get you a hard copy and give it to you. Okay?
All right. Because I'm not coming out. You want to do it this way? I'm not coming out.
No, I can just leave it at the front door and we'll back away.
And you can slide it under the door. I'm not putting myself in a situation where you can just come in and grab me. You can slide it under the door.
If you won't open the door.
I'm not opening the door without reviewing it and verifying it.
Okay, how are you going to
Don't worry about it. That's not... Well, here's the problem. Here you are at my door claiming you got a warrant that you're not showing me. Don't worry about it. Once again, I'm a journalist. With a number of different ties to a number of different people in a number of different locations. Don't worry about it. I can verify it. Here you are right now telling me you got a warrant that you're not willing to show me. Why is that? You can show me.
Would that work?
I want to see a copy of the warrant. I want to hold it and I want to verify it.
All right, we're going to get a copy of the warrant. Okay?
Why aren't you guys parking in front of my house? Why are you all the way at the end of the block?
Why are we what? I'm sorry?
Why aren't you parking in front of my house? Why are you all the way at the end of the block?
Well, because you're live streaming, you've got a spear in your hand.
And if you're not doing anything wrong, then you would have no problem with my cameras picking up your car numbers.
What's that?
And if you're not doing anything wrong, you would have no problem with my cameras picking up your car numbers.
All right, stay right there, Jennifer. We're going to get you that warrant, okay?
Go ahead. That's a lot of paperwork that Marilyn wants to deal with. On top of how many times have they been called? How many times have they come to the house? How many? Oh, new Q drop. Damn it, you guys are freaking awful. You guys are freaking awful. It's amazing how they keep claiming to have a warrant. They keep having to walk away to get information about the supposed warrant. They're here claiming they got a warrant, but they can't present said warrant. How is this continuing to happen? At every single time they come, the supposed court order, they don't have anything to back it up. That's very interesting. I don't know how or why something like that would be happening. Alright, I gotta check on the Q job, guys. I'll be back. I need to know what my beloved Q. Yes, my beloved Q has said. Oh. I missed it. Alrighty. Alright, let's read this. So Q posted a repost of March 12th, 2019 drop. It says, those who attack you, those who mock you, those who cull you, those who control you, those who label you, do they represent you? Or do they represent themselves in some form? Oh, this is going to be painful without reading first. Mental enslavement, the Great Awakening, freedom of thought, was designed and created not only as a back channel to the public, away from the long-standing mind control of the corrupt and heavily biased media, to endure future events through transparency and regeneration of individual thought, breaking the chains of groupthink, but more importantly, aid in the construction of a vehicle, a ship, that provides the scattered free thinkers with a starter, new social networking platform which allows for freedom of thought, expression, and patriotism, or natural pride, the feeling of love, devotion, and sense of attachment to a homeland and alliance with other citizens who share the same sentiment. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and/or the stable. When you are awake, you stand outside of the stable, groupthink collective, and have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. When you are awake, you are able to clearly see. The choice is yours and yours alone. Trust and put faith in yourself. You are not alone, and you are not in the minority. Difficult truth will soon see the light of day. Where we go one, we go all. Q. And then we have The Power of Anon Research, with an article about Ilhan Omar. All right, I'm gonna. Sorry about that. Yeah, apparently, Tiffany, he's calling the police. I just saw your post thing. Yeah, apparently he's calling the police. Sincha, he keeps calling them because I keep asking him to file motions, demand answers, try and do what he can to make sure that this whole child trafficking through CPS thing is finished. And he's refusing to. He'd rather walk out, call the police. He's admitted that he's going to call, and I quote, hit after hit after hit to get me to stop talking. Ultimately, CPS took my daughter because I was coming forward about how there's massive child trafficking through Child Protective Services, and there are people that are high in the government who are complicit in trafficking and raping children. And I started coming forward to try and encourage people, survivors, victims, to come forward and testify and say, hey, look, we know this is going on, we know this is happening, but we want the truth. We want transparency, we want the truth, and we want people to come forward and ultimately see and has all this stuff going on. So we'll see. You can have it. You can email it. You can email it. Great. Slide it under the door. I don't know. Let's see if you can. Back up. Yeah? All right, then you can leave it there at the base of the doorstep, and you can go back to your car so I can take a look at it.
I tell you what, I'm going to put it right in with the doorknob, right there, okay? And we're going to walk away, so you can go ahead and grab it and read it, okay?
All right. Yeah, I know he's being reasonable. Well, now, the thing is...
Jennifer!
Yeah?
Jennifer!
Yeah?
You're not getting a warrant.
I'm waiting for you to walk away.
I did walk away.
I didn't see where you went.
What's that?
I didn't see where you went.
Where do you want me to stand?
I want you to go down to the other end where all the other officers are.
Okay, all right.
All right, let's read this. Yeah, so Scott's charging me with assault because he's following me around and harassing me. However, this is not a legitimate signature. That's interesting. This is the same officer who came last night who refused to file a police report when I asked to file a police report. But she filed a police report when Scott filed a police report? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Fuck that shit. That's not happening. So this Officer Carper, I believe, now this is also a stamp. That's not a legit signature. So that's not happening. That's not an order signed by a judge. That's a stamp from a commissioner. That's not happening. And this was also written by Officer Carper. That was the same officer who came here last night when I wanted to write a police report about Scott breaking the door to come in and come after me. So she filed a police report of assault after Scott came in and assaulted me, but wouldn't file a police report of him coming in and trying to break down the door. Oh no. Oh no. Oh hell no. This is what happened last night. I called the police last night and spoke to Officer Carper last night before Scott even filed this. And I specifically asked to put in a protective order against him and to file against him. And that same officer goes back to the police station and starts writing a police report. Oh, hell no. That ain't gonna fucking happen. I'm not opening this door. Not fucking happening. Not fucking happening. You're a whole different level of stupid if you think I'm opening the door for that. Not fucking happening. Interesting, isn't that? The same person who came here last night, who refused to file a police report last night when I wanted to, came here and a few hours later wrote up a police report for Scott. So I needed to go to the commissioner's office for that officer to write a report, but she took a report for Scott at the police station? Oh no. Oh no, that ain't fucking legitimate. Yeah, I'm not opening the door for this. I tried to file this report to that exact same officer last night and she refused to take a report. I'm not opening the door for this because that exact same officer, one that's signed by a commissioner, not a judge. Nice try, not happening. 2, the police officer on this came here last night and refused to file a police report against Scott McFalls for the way that he's been abusing and assaulting me. You want me to come out because that officer wouldn't take my report but took Scott's report? That's not happening. That's not happening. Nope.
Jennifer,
Nope.
I really don't want this to go any further.
It's gotten that far. It's gotten this far.
All these other people to come out here, and it's not gonna be nice.
Okay.
It's not gonna end.
It's already not nice. We got children being kidnapped, abused, and God knows what happening to them. CPS took my daughter in case of neglect and placed her with somebody who's become best friends with my pedophile father, and you think that's okay? Yeah, no, that's not happening. This same officer refused to take my report last night, and now all of a sudden she's taking Scott's reports. That's not happening.
Listen, Jennifer.
No. Call whoever you need to. I'm not opening this door. Not for you. Call Matt Whitaker here. Call William Barr here. Call John Durham here. I'm not opening this door for you.
Are you sure you really want to go this route?
I'm not opening my door for you.
That's a shame because
You're right. It absolutely is a shame.
and now they could even put your dogs in some kind of jeopardy.
Well, you're the one sitting here making threats. You're the one sitting here that's giving me bullshit police reports from bullshit officers who won't take my statements but are taking my liar Scott husband's statements when I have records right here showing that the majority of what he says is false. No, I'm not opening this door. Call everyone you want.
Before this escalates.
Call, and it's escalated because of you.
You really want to escalate this?
You're the one that's making threats. I'm not making threats. I tried to file a police report with that exact same officer last night, and she refused.
Arrest signed by a commissioner.
That's not a judge's signature, and that's not a legitimate reason to come into my house. Sorry, Fourth Amendment prohibits you from coming into my house without a judge's signature. Without actually having a lawful hearing, there's no legitimate reason for me to be under arrest. I have done nothing wrong. That same officer would not take my statements. She would not take my reports, but she took his reports. That's not happening. I'm not opening this door.
Jennifer,
Talk to Douglas Hoffman from the Department of Justice if you want to talk any further.
Jennifer.
Talk to Douglas Hoffman at the Department of Justice if you want to talk any further.
All right. Jennifer, I'm serious. You're really gonna second guess your decision here.
Speak to my attorney for the Department of Justice.
Jennifer, if I walk away from this door,
Get walking.
then I'm calling out the tactical unit, and we're going to go that route.
If you want to go that route, go that route. I'm not opening the store for you. You want to make it worse for you? Go ahead. Make it as bad for you as you want. I'm not opening the store for you.
Then I will apologize preemptively because I really didn't want to go this route.
You're the one that's wanting it to go this route. I don't want it to go this route. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. You're giving me a bullshit order signed with a stamp, not an actual judge's signature. I'm not opening the store.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
So am I. Take care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Have the kind of day you deserve. That's pretty much and the strange thing is this number right here was the number when were they here last night? Like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock? So this was done shortly before midnight. But when she's giving me this case number and is filing reports on Scott's behalf, she called her to come for help. The problem, Tiffany, is if I show them the video where I ask them to file a report, then they're going,
Jennifer?
yeah?
That's what we're going to do now. We're going to be entertaining all your neighbors.
Okay.
All right.
So this is what's happening. We got the cops threatening to clear out or trying to have all my neighbors clear their homes because they're planning to assault me. Because Officer Carper would only take Scott's statement but won't take my statement. And then we have a commissioner who's signing an order with a stamp, not an actual. Let me do this in the meantime. I have multiple cameras, Tiffany. I have one in my doorbell. I have one inside my house by the front door. I also have multiple devices in here with cameras all over the place. My house is pretty much one giant video camera. If you'd like to, Tiffany, feel free to call anybody, any reporters, police officers. Call as many people as you want. Call everybody and everything you possibly can. Guys, I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate the kind words, but I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not the first mother to go through this. And I'm sure as shit going to do everything I can to make sure that I'm the last one to have to go through this. And I'm not going to stop until I know that all of these criminals who've been doing this are held accountable. Because like you said, there are good cops and there are bad cops, and I'm very, very, very cautious about differentiating between good people and bad people. The sad part is this is kind of the most human interaction I get in a while anyway. So in its own sick way, this is nice. Because I get some sort of degree of interaction with people outside of Scott. Even if it's through a window. Oh, at least that's not intended use. That license plate is BA 2260. Cynthia, I have a camera set up already, but I'll double check its position and everything. That's mine, Miriam. I'm watching, stay calm. I'm watching politics. You know, my usual. Great. Now we're coming up.
Afternoon, the Mueller poop show is done. Here we are, guys. It is 4:02 p.m. on the East Coast. It's actually 1 p.m. for Mr. Shady Group. Shady, get on in here on 7/24/2019 at 1:03 p.m. on the West Coast. It's 1300 hours for me for a change, guys. Coming to you live 5-5 worldwide. What an adventure in reality politics that was, my friend. OMG. You know, and excuse me, you know, if you have little children in the room, what a shit show. I'm sorry, I had to say. We paid for that. We paid for that? Yeah, we paid for that. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry for that, folks. You know, absolutely disgusting. Disgusting. Oh, I gotta let you guys know, this show is sponsored by the Patriot Beacon. Let's get right into it, and then let's get into it.
Yeah, Miriam, I'm trying to stay calm. Scott ultimately tried to break down the front door last night, so after he left, I called the police to file a police report. Well, Officer Carper came by and refused to take a report from me. But then a few hours later, she goes back to the police station, takes a report from Scott, and now a commissioner stamps a warrant for my arrest, doesn't even actually have a legitimate judge's signature. So now the police are here once again to come and grab me. Miriam, I don't know why Scott's doing this. I think at this point his behavior indicates that he's been actively helping CPS cover this up. That's the only thing I can think of at this point. This is what his behavior has been like. And pretty much I'm in the process of moving to DC. I'm viewing a bunch of apartments and everything tomorrow, and he's just not capable of leaving me alone in the meantime. So he wants to keep revoking the shit, and he wants to help protect it. He wants to keep protecting CPS. He wants to keep calling the police and filing false motions and allowing CPS to continue trafficking and abusing children and families. So I've got nothing else to really do or say. I mean, one of us sees the proof that's right in front of us. One of us sees the medical records. One of us sees the documentation. One of us sees the writing on the wall, and the other one is just helping CPS cover it up. So I'm on my way out. I'm on my way moving to DC, and I think Team Child Trafficking, Team Cabal, is less than pleased of my desire to move to DC. And I think they're ramping up their attack significantly because they don't want me moving to DC. Because they don't want me, well, there's the obvious. I know Sencha. I know he's a bad actor, and I know I have to cut all ties.
I know a lot of you guys out there have them, but
I know.
spread this out, man. I mean, this offer is good all the time. Give them this link.
I don't want to because I've been with him for 10 or 11 years, but it's clear that I'm not perfect, but it's clear that, you know, he's definitely a huge problem in this. So, it's frustrating. But that also being said, that's why I'm going to DC, so I can get out of here and become independent and not need to rely on anybody. So that's also a big reason I'm going to DC, because that's really the only place where I'd even remotely fit in. And I think that's what CPS is scared of.
You got a seatbelt cutter, rip that seatbelt off, smash that window out, and get out. It's got a compass. That's some old school stuff right there, guys. But, you know, I'm telling you, I ran it over with the car as well, with my Audi, 2000Q Audi, and it was awesome, guys. So, Shady, what do you think?
I really appreciate all of the patriots out there who supported us, and please, anyone, this is the way that we do support each other. And we would have thought Matrix even a year ago if we could have said, oh, well, we have Patriot supported news, and it really actually working out, and people coming to the conversation in droves now after seeing all this stuff. Plus, after seeing today, guys, people are going to start coming around and asking you guys questions who've spoken to the members of your family out there. This is just absolutely insane. So thanks so much for supporting us with the Patriot Beacon, Matrix.
And the frustrating thing is that I'm terrified to ask any friends or anybody for help, because if I do, they end up targeted. For example, I saw friends recently where I used to be close friends with, I don't know if I'd say close friends, but I used to be friends with. And after I started trying to reach out and make friends and everything, or, you know, all that, CPS started targeting them and going after them. And some of my friends lost their children because of this foster care supervisor removing children and targeting families and stuff like that. So just showing a pattern of retaliation and a pattern of abuse and fraud and waste and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I think we're here because I've been asking the ultimate question. How many fraudulent substance exposed cases has Child Protective Services opened in order to justify taking people's children? How many children did they take from perfectly healthy and fit and good parents to then place them with lunatics and pedophiles, like what happened to me, and like what's happening to my daughter, and like what's happening with God knows how many other children? How many healthy children were taken in case of neglect, vaccinated, had bad reactions, and then had lifelong negative effects due to that? How many times has this happened?
Hey, Matrix, you're muted there, man. I'm sorry. I just now noticed you are muted. Wow, guys. I do that all. We'll start right. It's all right. We'll start right back through the start. There we go. All right. I'll get my screen back over. We'll just start right at the top. A robot, a bot would not have made this mistake. A bot would not have made this mistake, guys. So I am human. Bots made this mistake before. Hey, we have that. I like big butts, and I cannot lie. Okay, so we got 3468, guys. This is an amazing day, right? We're waiting for D class now. We're gonna go over that. But look, the Department of Justice opens an antitrust probe into social media. Who has told you about antitrust? Do you trust Google, Shady? No. Do you trust Facebook? No. Do you trust Twitter? No. Antitrust. Antitrust. Change we can believe in. And guys, Q links to this right here, which is the Students for Trump breaking. The DOJ has announced they're opening an antitrust probe into the social media companies. Quote, without discipline of meaningful market-based competition, digital platforms may act in ways that are not responsive to consumer demands. I can't say it correctly. But guys, who's been telling you about trust and antitrust? We can find a bit of information, man. I'm gonna go to Patriots Fight right now, right? I want to show you this right here. Look, Q's gavel, right there. That gavel, future comes. This gavel leads to antitrust.
No, Tiffany, they're trying to get my neighbors to leave the neighborhood because CPS is having a tactical SWAT team called out again. Last time when they first tried to take Iris the first time, they pretty much surrounded the entire block and called out what they referred to as a tactical SWAT team. So they want to call out a tactical SWAT team again because Officer Carver wouldn't take my statement about Scott trying to break down the door, but took Scott's statement about, honestly, I don't know what. I'm not going to bother to. I know, Emily. I know that they don't care that they're being recorded. Well, they do and they don't. But, yeah.
Trust or how your money is entrusted by government to you and how the whole system works, and school doesn't teach you. So it's very interesting that this is the big conversation that everyone wanted to ignore and attack us on, because they've kind of predicated a lot of their attacks on us based on the idea that we're off the mark with this information. Right, so I want to give a big shout out to B Jammin' Girl. Wow, Shady and Matrix owning it today like Jim Jordan.
I know, Sencha. That's also part of the reason why I've been avoiding leaving the house. Because we've got Scott putting in all these false statements, all this false testimony, without anything to back it up. You know, on one hand, he says that I've refused to get any treatment with my mental health care. And on the other hand, I have a nice long letter from my therapist talking about the different lengths I've gone through to get treatment and to get help. But Scott, in fact, has refused to make sure that I can get my treatment. He's refused to make sure that I can get my treatment. So on one hand, he's saying that, you know, that I'm refusing to get treatment done. But on the other hand, I've left a clear, long trail of me begging for help to get care and to get help, and him just refusing to do anything to help. And this is, you know, a fairly common thing. Because on top of going after taking Iris, they also are on top of everything else extorting us for child support of $811 a month. So on one hand, they're saying that I need to get help, but on the other hand, they're going out of their way to make sure I can't get help. And then having Scott file false petitions and call the cops and all this shit. Don't worry, Sencha. That's why I'm not leaving. That's why I'm staying here. That's why I've got my politics playing, because politics keeps me calm, keeps me focused.
Really going after them on the chance. Why is that? Because these people don't want the message out there. These are the same people attacking everybody, guys. It's only about 130 people. Don't sweat it. The Chans are owned by these trolls, guys. Don't worry about it. We are winning. Period. Yeah. Now, all for a lark. Why are they attacking us, Shady? Why? Why are they attacking us? They're attacking us because they know that we're being effective, man. And they're attacking other people who are exposing it, just like, for instance, the parents of the
I'd like to not have to stand on the stool and stand by the window.
got some attention from the president, and they are actually a target target for the media, just like they were a target for us to have a moment. Picture would be the signifier, but the media has to turn their attack machine on them as well. And unfortunately, there's quite a number of them that live over there on the chance that are driving this narrative that human beings aren't allowed to somehow sell a T-shirt or do something productive in their own reality. I don't think that we would be communicating so well at rallies if some people weren't wearing Q-shirts that they bought somewhere, or the walk away movement wouldn't be working so well to get people to come to the Republican conversation. If somebody didn't sell a Q-shirt or T-shirt every once in a while, the president sure would get reelected if someone didn't donate to his campaign. So the reality of the situation is they are driving a narrative that is tried and true, and it comes from the bowels of communism, and it ain't working here.
Hey, everybody, who doesn't want the Q and POTUS word to get out? Oh, really? Huh. So do you think those are the people that are attacking me and you and Praying Medic and the Q, baby?
Well, they're coming after even people that watch us in chat.
That's right. Yeah, they're trying to dox everybody. Demos, yo, thank you so much, my brother. I love you so much. I love all of you. Thank you. That was 2 1745s, man. Wow, times 2. But look, we are over the target. Our, the maggot collision. I call them the maggot collision.
Sherry, I don't think it's going to get worse in DC because I'm right outside of, Patriots are in control in DC. I'm not concerned about anything happening in DC, which is part of the reason why I'm moving. I'm strategically choosing a number of locations for specific reasons of safety, for the specific reasons of knowing that if they try anything, well, they won't succeed. So, yeah, trust me, I'm thinking about trying to think this through as much as possible. In other news, I really need to start dusting more.
Ascribe natural forces to supernatural beings, acts of a god, gods, heroes, shaking the earth, raising a storm or a flood, etc. Figuratively, a thing or person that exhibits qualities which appear to be beyond outside control. A fundamental force, guys.
Hey, Majors, I got a tweet from the president coming through the chat. You ready?
Yeah. Let's do it, man.
There you go. I wonder what this says. The president tweeted you guys just a little bit ago there.
There it is. It's good. Look at that. Donald Trump status.
What does he say?
Truth is a force of nature. That is not a Q-proof, is it?
No.
Oh, wait. Or they're going to say Cupid proofs.
Well, they did it backwards, but it doesn't really matter.
Q sent us the Matrix.
Prove our. That's it. All of our Q army to say we're a force of nature.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead. Please retweet this if you are part of our Q army. Retweet this because this is huge. We are doing this live. Q sent us, and the Matrix Crew are. We are live right now, guys. Live.
I'm in Baltimore County, Tiffany.
2019 year of the boomerang. And that's all in capital letters. So it's year of the boomerang. That's the way they want us to hear that, I think. Year of the boomerang. All right, and then there's this one, Shady. I thought this one was very awesome. As we saw, Muppet, in my opinion, 3473. There are puppets, and there are puppet masters. Which is Mueller? Attempt to replace James Comey as FBI director failed. An attempt to regain FBI control. Plot and plan backup to initiate Supreme Court to safeguard against criminal prosecution regarding illegal and criminal actions. SC equals blockade. SC equals loss of FBI command and control safeguard. DOJ depends on what agency for investigating criminal actions. Gosh, Mueller, you won. He was fighting for his life today, man. He will be indicted for one, guys. That is a fact. Mueller had to be bury and cover up. Mueller fought to remove truly elected office. Biggest scandal in American history. Treason. 2019, the year of the boomerang. Hey. You. I love it. That's my cue right here. Hey, has Q used boomerang ever before? I don't know. Let's look. The hat gives Liberty 1111. Here. And she's absolutely amazing. I don't know if she's here today, but Liberty, good. Oh, I see you put a boomerang in there. Shut up. Tough Tessie. Wow. You are a tough Tessie. Thank you. This is script.com document. It's about Janie Smith, SEO affidavit. We knew then. We know now. This time we have government control. Boomerang suicide. Q. Wow. I didn't remember. Yes, that was November 10th. Is there another one? Oh my God, it's like Christmas. So we got voter ID law. Look, you were saying, hey, we need voter ID laws. We need to say that yes, we're citizens and we can vote, and that absolutely I think yes, at the end of the day, like it's not a scam. But if it's done right, it's not a scam. And this says will recent expected voter fraud actions by the Tea Party provide support for a voter ID law. Voter ID law equals death of Tea Party. Boomerang suicide. Q. Jeff Boyd, I think with you as War Drummer hashtag the best. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you. Again, War Drummer has turned on me. He was part of the attack squad that was attached to me. My thoughts and prayers go out for the Jezebel spirit that is infecting and inhabiting him. He actually provided good with you, Jeff, and many other people. So I really, really do appreciate him for that. I have nothing bad to say except for
Emily, they're willing to use extreme, excessive force to arrest me because of somebody who's already been caught filing multiple false motions to the court. So let's escalate that a little slightly. You guys will have to forgive the mess in my house. I haven't been able to clean since the last time Scott wrote a bullshit petition to get me removed. Oops, sorry, damn it.
He's big news, pushing false narrative.
watch it. You see, that's why we did not come on at 1 o'clock, because we needed you guys to watch it. Okay? Q gave us specific orders to watch it, essentially, in my opinion, right? So not watch us. Not watch us. It's not about me. It's about the information. It's about watching this prattling, senile Bob.
So you can make sure that we know, make sure you know what you paid for.
Yeah, we know that you know that I know that you know that I know that we know.
There's something stated.
There is. I wanted to show you a little. Here it is. 8:30 this morning. I said, what if Bob, with 2 B's, is B2? And he bombed. Stealth bomber, date of first flight. It was supposed to be on the 17th of July. Date of Wheeler's testimony. It was supposed to be on the 17th of July. A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So B2, Bob has 2 B's. Or not 2 B's. I don't know. Is it spelled backwards, Bob? Bob, is your name spelled backwards?
It is. It's always spelled back to me or not to me. That's the question.
Hi, V. Hi, Christy. Long story short, Scott tried to break down the door last night, failed to do so. I called the police to file a police report. Officer Carper refused to file a police report. She goes back to the police station. Scott apparently goes to the police station, files a bullshit police report, and then Officer Carper takes Scott's police report, ignores my police report, and the commissioner managed to get, supposedly, we have a stamp, and that's not actually signed by a judge, it's a stamp stamped by a commissioner, saying that there's a warrant for my arrest. However, when I asked to review it, they give me a hard time, take a long time to get it to me, and then what I have is a stamped copy. It's not actually a judge's signature. It's stamped by supposedly a commissioner. So, yeah, no, I'm not opening this door. I'm not coming out, and, yeah. I think this is all happening because I'm going to be moving to DC. And I don't think CPS wants me moving to DC because they know that once they get to DC, there's really nothing they can do. And I think they're trying to disappear me. I think Scott tried to disappear me the other week when he filed a false petition then. And I think he's trying to disappear me now, and he's filing a false petition now. And it seems like Diamond agrees.
Allison Booth, thank you. Oh my gosh. Wow. Here we go. So that's the movie. This one. So basically, never interfere with an enemy. I said to get a lot. I said, enjoy the show. So he said, I told him to go and get some popcorn. Never interfere. Then we got this, right? So I made sure to remind people at the time that Mueller will face charges regarding Q1. He's working to save himself. Q. That's very obvious. Let's keep going. Still going. Eyes on Doug Collins. Remember, Q said eyes on Doug Collins. But let's. You want to rip through these, Shady? Go ahead. Rip through.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller. The investigation did not establish members of the Trump campaign conspired with the Russian government in the election. You probably went to send one if you're going to hit the button.
You know, you never know, right? Let me
just see. Oh, they're a puppet. That's today. Where's yesterday's? I will find it. I miss Corticon's. Let me just go ahead. Let's just go to QMAP. Here's QMAP. This is Q post from yesterday. This is Corticon.
You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Well, guys, today was the day, and what a day it was. Robert Mueller finally testifying before two House committees, Judiciary and Intelligence. It was a car wreck in slow motion. Pretty stunning. Mueller, refused to answer like 123 times. He clearly did not seem to be in charge of his own investigation. He was fumbling. He seemed lost. There was a point at which he even just completely forgot who was asking him questions. It was very painful. It seems like he was just, not there. And it seemed really like I said, he was not in charge of his own investigation. Kind of shocking. But he really didn't do anything in favor of the Dems. He really hurt the Dems, in my opinion. So today is going to be a Robert Mueller testimony special edition. We've got clips of the best moments from our favorite Republican all-stars, just destroying him as he sits there. And we've got lots of more information about specific parts of the testimony. And we're going to start with some of President Trump's live tweeting of this historic event. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from my sponsor. It only takes one major disaster to remind us how fragile life is and our systems are. Recent earthquakes in California have done just that for many people. Life can change in a flash, and all too often it does. When emergencies strike, are you prepared for the days without electricity and stores being damaged or closed? Well, if not, today's a good day to make a plan and prepare for those disasters. I've done this myself, and I started with building a food storage plan. I trust and use My Patriot Supply, and I think you should too. This month, they're running a sale price for a 2-week emergency food kit on my special website, preparewithredpill78.com. You can save 40% when you click the link in the description below and order it today. It gets shipped discreetly to your home. These 2-week emergency food kits include breakfast, lunches, dinners, and they last up to 25 years in storage. Preparing for emergencies with My Patriot Supply is the smart thing to do, and if you do it now, you'll save 40% at preparewithredpill78.com. That's preparewithredpill78.com. All right, so today at first, President Trump said he wouldn't be watching former special counsel Robert Mueller's testimony before the House about his 22-month investigation into whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to alter the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. Well, then he said he might watch a little. But judging from his copious flow of tweets on Twitter, it seems President Trump was raptly watching every minute of the riveting testimony. As House Democrats stuck to some clearly defined talking points in questioning Mueller, Trump sought to pull them apart. So Democrats and others can illegally fabricate a crime, try pinning it on a very innocent president, and when he fights back against this illegal and treasonous attack on our country, they call it obstruction? Wrong. Why didn't Robert Mueller investigate the investigators? Trump wrote on Twitter. Now, Trump also hit the last-minute decision to allow Mueller to have a lawyer sit next to him to advise him on what questions to answer. It was never agreed that Robert Mueller could use one of his many Democrat never-Trumper lawyers to sit next to him and help him with his answers. This was specifically not agreed to, and I would never have agreed to it. The greatest witch hunt in U.S. history by far, he wrote. In another post, Trump blasted Mueller for not investigating Trump-hating FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Why didn't Robert Mueller and his band of 18 angry Democrats spend any time investigating crooked Hillary Clinton, Lion and Leakin James Comey, Lisa Page and her psycho lover, Peter S., Andy McCabe, the beautiful Orr family, Fusion GPS, and many more, including himself and Andrew W., referring to Andrew Weissman? And Trump questioned why Mueller never probed Hillary Clinton, deleting tens of thousands of emails from a secret server she had in her home, in her bathroom. So why didn't the highly conflicted Robert Mueller investigate how and why crooked Hillary Clinton deleted and acid-washed 33,000 emails immediately after getting a subpoena from the United States Congress? She must have great lawyers. Later, Trump posted a quote from Fox News host Chris Wallace saying Mueller's testimony has been a disaster for the Democrats and a disaster for the reputation of Robert Mueller. The president doesn't leave the White House today until 4 p.m. to head to West Virginia for a campaign event, so expect many, many more tweets. All right, let's go ahead and watch this clip with Chris Wallace talking about Robert Mueller and the decline of his reputation.
Yeah, I had to laugh a little bit when you talked about the testimony by Robert Mueller, because I think testimony has to be put in quotes. It really hasn't been much testimony. Frankly, I think you've both been very kind. I think this has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think it's been a disaster for the reputation of Robert Mueller. He has seemed very uncertain with his brief. He doesn't seem to know what things that are in the report. He's been attacked a number of times, and you would think that almost anybody else would have defended his own integrity and the integrity of the investigation, and over Mueller just sits silent and allows the attacks from the Republicans to sweep over him and says nothing. I think it does raise questions about the degree to which he actually was in charge of and control of this report, because he doesn't seem very much in control or charge of what the final report was. I should say whether he was in charge of the investigation, because he doesn't seem in charge of what the report actually says.
It begs the question, was Robert Mueller even going to work throughout this almost 2-year investigation? How many times was he showing up in the office? And how many times when he was in the office was he not sitting in his office with the door closed playing Sudoku or hangman with himself, or perhaps a few games of solitaire? It seems like he was doing anything but trying to investigate the president. Like, he just let his entire team of Democrats, all those angry Democrats, they did all the investigating, and he said, you just write it up and I'll put my signature on it, and I'm sure it'll be fine, thinking that he was not going to have to testify, maybe because he thought Jeff Sessions was weak. I don't know. Maybe this is all part of the plan for President Trump. He wanted Robert Mueller to show up here in Congress and just embarrass everyone, embarrass himself, deep six his career and his legacy. Well, if that was the plan, then President Trump has yet another win on his side of the column. Like, he is a genius. This was a horrible, horrible thing for the Democrats. They looked so dumb, and Robert Mueller looked even dumber. Now, next, President Trump also commented on the fact that Robert Mueller came in looking for that FBI job the day before he was given the post of special counsel. He said, hope he doesn't say that under oath. Boom, President Trump calls out Robert Mueller for lying about applying for the FBI job. We have numerous witnesses. Robert Mueller could be in big trouble for that statement. Earlier today, as Christina Layla reported this morning, President Trump tweeted out this morning that he has witnesses to Mueller saying that he was there applying for the job as the FBI chief. He said, it has been reported that Robert Mueller is saying that he did not apply and interview for the job of FBI director and get turned down the day before he was wrongfully appointed special counsel. Hope he doesn't say that under oath, in that we have numerous witnesses to the interview, including the Vice President of the United States. But during his testimony today, Special Counsel Robert Mueller disputed the president's claim that he applied for the job as FBI chief. Special Counsel Robert Mueller is disputing President Donald Trump's claim that Mueller was rebuffed in a bid to fill the post as FBI director. Facing questions from congressional lawmakers, Mueller said he spoke with Trump about the FBI job before he was named a special counsel, but not as a candidate. Then White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon has said that while the White House invited Mueller to speak to the president about the FBI and thought about asking him to become director again, Mueller did not come in looking for a job. But Trump tweeted Wednesday that there are numerous witnesses, including Vice President Mike Pence, who could say that Mueller applied and interviewed for the job and was turned down for it. This could be devastating for Mueller. It could be awful if he ended up in isolation on Rikers Island. I think that it would be just desserts if that's the case, if that's what ends up happening to Robert Mueller. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that the Republicans on these committees are going to band together. They're going to search for any spot where Robert Mueller could have potentially committed perjury, and they're going to make recommendations for him to be brought up on charges. Because if that's the case, I just have to say he deserves it, especially considering what him and his team did to several people in President Trump's camp. The only thing is that Mueller has nothing to deal with, or does he? If he is brought up on charges and he's looking at prison term, does that mean that he's going to be willing to talk about his former handlers, all the people in these former failed administrations, the deep state presidents who he served under in the past? I don't know. It's a pretty interesting question, and I certainly hope that Jim Jordan and Ratcliffe and all of his buddies there, Nunes, I hope that they all get together and they all bring referrals up for Robert Mueller on perjury charges. Now, speaking of Jim Jordan, here is the first of several clips put together by my good friend and fellow researcher Methods, and he says that Jim Jordan boom. That's right, Jim Jordan knows what to do and how to do it. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what Jim had to say to former FBI Director and Special Counsel lead investigator Robert Mueller.
Maybe a better course of action is to figure out how the false accusation started. Maybe it's to go back and actually figure out why Joseph Nipson was lying to the FBI. And here's the good news. That's exactly what Bill Barr's doing. And thank goodness for that. That's exactly what the Attorney General and John Durham are doing. They're going to find out why we went through this three-year saga and get to the bottom of it.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Now, is it just me, or does Robert Mueller look like he's just slightly smiling when Jim Jordan said that about Joseph Mifsud? Let's take a closer look. Yeah, look, slightly upturning the corners of his mouth. Yeah, right there. Looks like he's holding back a smile. It's just the slightest thing. Robert Mueller has, a pretty low affectation level. Doesn't show too much emotion. But at the beginning there, when he was blinking, the way that he was putting his head down as Jim Jordan was saying it, I think that Robert Mueller was smiling just a little bit. Just the slightest touch of a smile. Right there. There you go, Robert. Smile. Let's go ahead and listen to it from the point where Jim Jordan says that and he begins to smile.
Here's the good news. That's exactly what Bill Barr's doing. And thank goodness for that. That's exactly what the Attorney General and John Durham are doing. They're going to find out why we went through this three-year saga and get to the bottom of it.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
That is exactly what Bill Barr is doing. Now, Robert Mueller, and like I said, this was bad for the Democrats and it was bad for Robert Mueller, but he just fell apart up there on the stand at that table in front of those committees. He seemed like he was caught off guard. He was mumbling, he was bumbling, he was stuttering, he was confused, he was doddering, he was nervous, completely lost. Special Counsel Robert Mueller testified before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday morning. And like I said, he looked confused, he was stuttering, he was agreeable, lost, and nervous, and just a doddering old man. He frequently paged through his notes. He just looked weak. Now, there is no way that Mueller ran this investigation. This was all Andrew Weissman, and this witch hunt was blessed by Rod Rosenstein, they are saying, and the corrupt Department of Justice. This was a criminal attempt to remove a sitting president from office. Oh my God, Mueller completely falls apart during House hearing. During questioning by Representative Jackson Lee, he was completely lost. Could you repeat the question? Let's go ahead and take a listen.
I have on the screen. Is that correct on the screen? Can you repeat the question? And now that I have the language on the screen.
Is it correct?
As you further elaborate, obstruction of justice can be motivated by a direct desire to protect non-criminal personal interests, to protect against investigations where underlying criminal liability falls into a gray area, or to avoid. Is that true? And is it true that the impact? Pardon?
Can you read the last question?
The last question was.
I want to make certain I got it accurate.
No, the last question was the language on the screen asking you if that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Does a conviction of obstruction of justice result potentially in a lot of years of time in jail?
Yes. Well, again, can you repeat the question? Just make sure that I have it accurate.
Does obstruction of justice warrant a lot of time in jail if you were convicted?
Yes.
And is
Time of the gentlelady expired.
That was probably the worst one. Robert, it's on the screen. Is this the correct definition of obstruction of justice? Can you repeat the question? Oh my goodness, what a horror show. It was awful. It was so painful to watch, but yet at the same time, just so satisfying. All right, next we have a clip showing Representative John Ratcliffe basically telling Robert Mueller that he's a bad attorney. Maybe he needs to go back to law school. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Your report, the very first line of your report says, and as you read this morning, it authorizes the special counsel to provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. That's the very first word of your report, right?
That's correct.
Here's the problem, Director. The special counsel didn't do that. On volume 1, you did. On volume 2, with respect to potential obstruction of justice, the special counsel made neither a prosecution decision or a declination decision. You made no decision. You told us this morning and in your report that you made no determination. So respectfully, Director, you didn't follow the special counsel regulations. It clearly says, write a confidential report about decisions reached. Nowhere in here does it say, write a report about decisions that weren't reached. You wrote 180 pages. 180 pages about decisions that weren't reached, about potential crime.
That question, was the ball advanced? No. Impeachment's over. I don't think Nancy Pelosi is going to stand for her members bringing forth something that is going to obviously lose in the Senate, lose with the American public. And the problem with Mueller's testimony on this issue is that he had to carry the ball for them some way, whether he wanted to or not, at least by being a vigorous, strong, rock-solid prosecutor. And he looked like somebody who'd slowed a step or two, and perhaps as one of the Republicans are starting to put out there, maybe he wasn't even in control of all those angry Democrats. Maybe he's a figurehead, somebody from the past that they put there so they could do their dirty work. That's the theory they're coming out with. It's not going to be bought by Democrats, but they needed more fuel for any kind of impeachment effort. Well, one of the things we saw.
Nothing. And the Democrats had nothing. And now they have less than nothing. So big today. The Democrats lost so big today. Their party is in shambles right now. They've got the squad leading their party. They are a mess. Where even you take a look at Scribe and you take a look at so many of the people that were the most outspoken. And they say this was a devastating day for the Democrats. And you know it, John, and everybody else knows it. This was a devastating day for the Democrats.
weren't charged or decided. And respectfully, by doing that, you managed to violate every principle and the most sacred of traditions about prosecutors not offering extra prosecutorial analysis about potential crimes that aren't charged. So Americans need to know this as they listen to the Democrats and socialists on the other side of the aisle, as they do dramatic readings from this report, that volume 2 of this report was not authorized under the law to be written. It was written to a legal standard that does not exist at the Justice Department. And it was written in violation of every DOJ principle about extra prosecutorial commentary. I agree with the chairman this morning when he said Donald Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he damn sure shouldn't be below the law, which is where volume 2 of this report puts him.
Oh, just an incredible monologue from John Ratcliffe. Really gave it to Robert Mueller there. Robert Mueller looked ashamed in that clip. I think he knows exactly what Ratcliffe is talking about, and he knows the kind of deep doo-doo that he's in as a result of this. He has created this firestorm, and if it wasn't him, if it was people on his team, he is complicit in allowing it. Oh man, I don't know what's going on with Robert Mueller. He just appears to be just absolutely lost, and I just love this woman in the back here with that smirk on her face. She's like, yep, the whole time, everything John Ratcliffe is saying, she's like, yeah, he's right, he's totally right. Robert Mueller did not follow any of the statutes that he was meant to. None of the rules in the special counsel regulations. He put forward a bunch of nonsense that was unnecessary and was absolutely unfair to President Trump. But thank God he did not do anything to help the Democrats today. If anything, he hurt them just so incredibly. Now, Trey Gowdy is weighing in, and he said he didn't want to come, and now we know why he didn't want to come. Special counsel Robert Mueller testified before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday morning. It was a slow-motion train wreck. Former Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy had this to say about today's performance by Robert Mueller. He said he didn't want to come, and now we know why. Gowdy thought Mueller's testimony was so conflicted and embarrassing, he added that he would not be surprised if Democrats wanted to cancel the afternoon hearing. It was a devastating performance for the deep state frontman. Let's go ahead and listen to Trey Gowdy's analysis.
Oversight Committee Chairman and Fox News contributor Trey Gowdy, and of course Chris Wallace and Fox News Sunday. Mr. Chairman, your thoughts on the day?
Well, he said he didn't want to come, and now we know why he didn't want to come. I don't think the report should have been made public. I don't think he should have testified. Prosecutors don't engage in these collateral consequences like impeachment. You either indict or you shut up. The three main takeaways to me: Johnny Ratcliffe discussing the flipping of the burden. I mean, even the president is presumed innocent. So he's not above the law, which was the Democrat mantra, but he's also not beneath the law. Kenny Buck, another former federal prosecutor, said if you can reach a conclusion on conspiracy and collusion and say no indictment, then why couldn't you do it on obstruction? So the big takeaway to me was the Democrats wanted this to fuel their impeachment narrative, and I'll bet you if they could cancel this afternoon's IPSI hearing, they would. Chris?
Yeah, it was so embarrassing, but you gotta love it, you guys. This was better than I could have hoped. Now, Matt Gaetz also gave a stunning performance, and his method says right here he was not playing games. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this exchange.
Do you have any basis as you sit here today to believe that Steele was lying?
As I said before, I'll say again, it's not my purview. Others are investigating what you
So it's not your purview to look into whether or not Steele's lying. It's not your purview to look into whether or not anti-Trump Russians are lying to Steele. And it's not your purview to look at whether or not Glenn Simpson was meeting with the Russians the day before and the day after you write 3,500 words about the Trump campaign meeting. So I'm wondering how these decisions are guided. I look at the Inspector General's report. I'm citing from page 404 of the Inspector General's report. It states, Page stated, Trump's not ever going to be president, right? Right. Strzok replied, no, he's not. We'll stop it. Also in the Inspector General's report, there's someone identified as attorney number 2. Attorney number 2, this is page 419, replied, hell no, and then added, viva la resistance. Attorney number 2 2 in the Inspector General's report and Strzok both worked on your team, didn't they?
Pardon me? Yes.
They both worked on your team, didn't they?
I know. I heard Strzok. Who else were you talking about?
Attorney number 2 identified in the Inspector General's report.
Okay. And the question was?
Did he work for you? The guy who said Viva la Resistance.
Peter Strzok worked for me for a period of time. Yes.
Yeah, but so did the other guy that said Viva la Resistance. And here's what I'm kind of noticing, Director Mueller. When people associated with Trump lied, you threw the book at him. When Christopher Steele lied, nothing. And so it seems to be that when Glenn Simpson met with Russians, nothing. When the Trump campaign met with Russians, 3,500 words. And maybe the reason why there are this discrepancies in what you focused on because the team
Time of the gentleman has expired. Mr. Jeffries of New York is recognized.
Mueller had no idea who attorney number 2 was. I can't believe how confused he was. The more that I watched it, just the more bizarre that it got. You guys, this was truly an historic event in the history of our nation. And it just goes to show the ludicrous nature of this investigation. Oh, and as I said earlier, slow motion train wreck. Representative Debbie Lesko just absolutely destroyed Mueller today with her questioning. He gave several contradictory statements, and Mueller completely lost. Representative McClintock grilled Special Counsel Robert Mueller on his several contradictory statements from his report to his testimony on Wednesday to Congress. And McClintock pointed out that Mueller and his gang of angry Democrats cited the Washington Post 60 times, the New York Times 55 times, and Fox News about 25 times. Representative Debbie Lesko said, "I've got to say, it looks like Volume 2 is regurgitated press stories. Honestly, there is almost nothing in Volume 2 that I didn't already hear or know simply by having a $50 cable subscription." This was the ultimate pinnacle of a Democratic wrap-up smear. They used the press stories, which were just leaks handed out to them by people on Mueller's team, people in the former administration, holdovers from that former administration, and then Mueller and his team, Andrew Weissman namely, trying to use them to legitimize all of these false claims against the president. Let's go ahead and listen to this exchange between Representative Debbie Lesko and Robert Mueller.
Mr. Chairman, just recently, Mr. Mueller, you said Mr. Liu was asking you questions. And Mr. Liu's question, I quote, "The reason you didn't indict the president is because of the OLC opinion." And you answered, "That is correct." But that is not what you said in the report, and it's not what you told Attorney General Barr. And in fact, in a joint statement that you released with DOJ on May 29th, after your press conference, your office issued a joint statement with the Department of Justice that said, "The Attorney General has previously stated that the special counsel repeatedly affirmed that he was not saying that but for the OLC opinion, he would have found the president obstructed justice. The special counsel's report and his statement today made clear that the office concluded it would not reach a determination one way or the other whether the president committed a crime. There is no conflict between these statements." So, Mr. Miller, do you stand by your joint statement with DOJ that you issued on May 29th as you sit here today?
I would have to look at it more closely before I said I agree with it.
Well, my conclusion is that what you told Mr. Liu really contradicts what you said in the report, and specifically what you said apparently repeatedly to Attorney General Barr, and then you issued a joint statement on May 29th saying that the Attorney General has previously stated that the special counsel repeatedly affirmed that he was not saying but for the OLC report that we would have found the president obstructed justice. So I just say there's a conflict. I do have some more questions. Mr. Mueller, there's been a lot of talk today about firing the special counsel and curtailing the investigation. Were you ever fired, Mr. Mueller? Were you ever fired as special counsel, Mr. Mueller?
No.
No. Were you allowed to complete your investigation unencumbered?
Yes.
And in fact, you resigned as special counsel when you closed up the office in late May 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, April 18th, the Attorney General held a press conference in conjunction with the public release of your report. Mr. Mueller, rather than purely relying on the evidence provided by witnesses and documents, I think you relied a lot on media. I'd like to know how many times you cited the Washington Post in your report.
How many times I what?
Cited the Washington Post in your report.
I do not have knowledge of that figure, but that's it. I don't have knowledge of that figure.
I counted about 60 times. How many times did you cite the New York Times? I counted.
Again, I have no idea.
I counted about 5 times. How many times did you cite Fox News?
As with the other two, I have no idea.
About 25 times. I've got to say, it looks like Volume 2 is mostly regurgitated press stories. Honestly, there's almost nothing in Volume 2 that I couldn't already hear or know simply by having a $50 cable news subscription. However, your investigation cost the American taxpayers $25 million.
Did you see her face? And then the guy's face behind him? Oh, he was like, make it stop. Make it stop. This is so bad. I know how bad this is. Oh, my goodness. Oh, so painful. All right, next, here is that bit with McClintock dismantling Mueller on the Russian troll farm claims, and he accused him of leaving flaming bag of feces on America's porch. Representative Tom McClintock took special counsel Robert Mueller to task on his claims about the Russian troll farms being run by the Kremlin, and saying that this report was a flaming bag of feces. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip.
It describes your office as the team of partisans. And as additional information is coming to light, there's a growing concern that political bias caused important facts to be omitted from your report in order to cast the president unfairly in a negative light. For example, John Dowd, the president's lawyer, leaves a message with Michael Flynn's lawyer on November 17th of 2017, November 2017. The edited version in your report makes it appear that he was improperly asking for confidential information, and that's all we know from your report, except that the judge in the Flynn case ordered the entire transcript released, in which Dowd makes it crystal clear that's not what he was suggesting. So my question is, why did you edit the transcript to hide the exculpatory part of the message?
I'm not certain I would agree with your characterization as that we did anything to hide.
Well, you omitted it. You quoted the part where he says we need some kind of heads up just for the sake of protecting all of our interests if we can, but you omitted the portion where he says without giving up any confidential information.
Well, I'm not going to go further in terms of discussing the...
Let's go on. You extensively discussed Konstantin Kilimnik's activities with Paul Manafort. You described him as, quote, a Russian-Ukrainian political consultant and longtime employee of Paul Manafort, assessed by the FBI to have ties to Russian intelligence. And again, that's all we know from your report, except we've since learned from news articles that Kilimnik was actually a U.S. State Department intelligence source, yet nowhere in your report is he so identified. Why was that fact?
I don't necessarily credit what you're saying occurred.
Were you aware that Kilimnik was
I'm not going to go into the
Department?
I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of what we had in the course of our investigation.
Konstantin Kilimnik?
Pardon?
Did you interview Konstantin Kilimnik?
I can't go into the discussion of our investigative moves.
And yet that is the basis of your report. Again, the problem we're having is we have to rely on your report for an accurate reflection of the evidence, and we're starting to find out that's not true. For example, the fundamental problem is, as I said, we've got to take your word. Your team faithfully, accurately, impartially, and completely described all of the underlying evidence in the Mueller report, and we're finding more and more instances where this just isn't the case. And it's starting to look like, having desperately tried and failed to make a legal case against the president, you made a political case instead. You put it in a paper sack, lit it on fire, dropped it on our porch, rang the doorbell, and ran.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's the truth.
He did try to make a political case because he could not make a criminal case. Just absolutely incredible. Now, with regard to the criminal contempt, earlier this month, Dabney Friedrich, a Trump-appointed federal judge, rebuked Robert Mueller and the DOJ for falsely suggesting that the Internet Research Agency and Concord Management Company, the so-called Russian troll farms, were linked to the Russian government. Mueller's core claim that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 U.S. presidential election in a sweeping and systematic fashion revolves around this bogus claim that a Russian bot farm was linked to the Kremlin. Now, this is a core claim that has never even been proven. Judge Friedrich wrote in a memo that the special counsel report describes efforts by the Russian government to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. But the indictment, which alleges that private Russian entities and individuals conducted an information warfare campaign designed to sow discord among U.S. voters, Indictment 10, it does not link the defendants to the Russian government. Now, save for a single allegation that Concord and Concord Catering had several government contracts with no further elaboration, the indictment alleges only private conduct by private actors, Friedrich continued. During the hearing on Wednesday, McClintock demanded to know how Mueller could claim that the IRA was linked to the Kremlin without any evidence, and noted that he and U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr were nearly held in criminal contempt over it. Why did you say that Russia was responsible for the troll farms, but give no evidence of this, McClintock demanded. He also asked if the press conference held by Mueller had anything to do with that fact and the previous day, and of course Mueller claimed that it did not, but I think the timing is a little too coincidental. All right, this has been a good episode, you guys. We've got one more clip from my good friend Methods. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at one final clip from Methods. This is a supercut of Mueller's impeccable listening skills throughout many of the hearings and their questions. It's just a perfect encapsulation of Mueller's lack of focus, lack of concentration, and inability to listen to the questions that he is being asked. Perhaps because he knows that he can't answer them, so he's stalling for time. Let's go ahead and take a look.
The president committed the crime of obstruction. You could not publicly state that in your report or here today.
Can you repeat the question, sir? You're going to have to repeat that for me. Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which act? Pardon?
Can you read the last question?
The last question was
I want to make certain I got it accurate. I'm sorry, could you restate?
But a fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to that?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Individual is in fact obligated to provide what's being demanded by the regulation or statute, meaning you don't have any wiggle room, right?
I'd have to look more closely at the statute.
Well, I just read it to you.
And what was the question, sir, if I might?
Correct.
And where are you reading from on that?
I'm reading from my question.
Then could you repeat it?
Okay. Is that correct on the screen?
Can you repeat the question? Now that I have the language on the screen.
Is it correct?
What was the question?
Pardon?
Can you read the last question?
The last question was,
I want to make certain I got it accurate.
Attorney number 2 in the Inspector General's report and Strzok both worked on your team, didn't they?
Pardon me? Yes.
They both worked on your team, didn't they?
I know. I heard Strzok. Who else were you talking about?
Attorney number 2 identified in the Inspector General's report.
Okay. And the question question was?
Volume 2, page 87 and 88 of your report. True?
I'm sorry, could you again repeat the question?
Now, when all was said and done, at the end of the day, Donald J. Trump, of course, in classic form, had something to say about the matter. So let's take a look at this clip here that Method's got, and we'll get a bit of an insight into what Donald Trump is thinking and where this is going to go.
Well, Mueller had no material. Sure, Mueller had no material to work with, and he did a horrible job. Obviously, his presentation was way off, but that's okay. It didn't matter. He had no material. There was nothing done wrong. In fact, things were done right. There was nothing done wrong. And certainly, I mean, look, I read the papers, and I read the press, and I read the internet, and if you see what's going on the internet, if you listen to the internet, this was one of the worst performances in the history of our country. So you know that very well. But I don't think anybody could have done a good performance. He had no material. It was a fake set of facts that the Democrats used and others to try and do really an illegal overthrow. But we're going to find out about that.
That's right. President Donald Trump pointing once again to the fact that this was nothing but an illegal attempt to position a coup within the United States to remove a duly elected president. And now that it's all said and done, we're ready for the next phase of the operation, which is the legal takedown of those who plotted the coup. You guys better watch out. Traitors, be ready. All right, guys, as I said, just an incredibly painful set of hearings. Robert Mueller did not appear to have been in control of his own investigation. I believe this was all completely headed up by Andrew Weissman, the so-called bulldog, and the team of angry Democrats. And perhaps Robert Mueller did that so that he could allow them to crash and burn and completely incriminate themselves in every aspect of the investigation. Doesn't know statutes, doesn't know the rules, doesn't understand when people are talking to him. Robert Mueller, it's time to check yourself into a home and just subsist for your final days on cottage cheese and applesauce. All right, folks, that is all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.
Ever a night to open up with some mandolin, it's tonight. I have to give somebody credit. Some credit for just a beautiful, beautiful thing. His name is Clyde McGrady. And Clyde McGrady today, he's a writer. I came across his Twitter account today. And Clyde said that, just a really amazing observation, that today's hearing At today's hearing, Robert Mueller was the worst witness since Frank Pantangeli. And that is, of course, the screenshot from the default picture tonight. That's Frank Pantangeli testifying before the Senate in Godfather 2, where he's supposed to be really bringing the house down onto Michael Corleone. But in a surprise move, Michael Corleone brings in Frank Pantangeli's brother from Sicily. And when Frank sees his brother there, he gets second thoughts about ratting out and dropping the bombs on everything and all that stuff. And he completely twists around his testimony, and he leaves everybody aghast in the Senate chamber. It's amazing. Just an awful, awful witness. Now, I'm not drawing any direct parallels there. It's just the only real thing that's relevant here is that Robert Mueller was a blithering idiot. And of course, you know, because of we know the powers that be and what kind of influence they have at Twitter and stuff like that, and because it's, you know, it's one thing or another, number one trending right now on Twitter is impeach now. Impeach him now. Don't worry, one day we will get justice. We will get justice one day.
Justice?
Don't you worry. But tonight is going to be a good one. I promise you that. If you weren't able to watch any of this shit today, don't worry, because I have everything you need to see right over here. A couple of things, couple of clips, maybe about 10 or 11 minutes worth of clips we're going to watch, but they're all so good. So good, and it went on for hours. But I only watched maybe a total of 45 minutes at that, and it was just on in the background. Couldn't do it. Then after a while, I was like, okay, heard everything I needed to hear. But welcome, everybody. It's a Quite Frankly pre-show. Quite Frankly pre-show. It's 7:02 p.m. on the East Coast over here. And we got plenty to do tonight. Going to take calls. It's July 24th, 2019, and here's what's on the Wednesday night edition. Okay, well, there's no avoiding it. Like we said, in the first half, we need to play a few clips from today's hearing on Capitol Hill, in which a confused elderly man was tortured for hours. And then we have calls from the audience and more Ruth Bader Ginsburg news. And in the second half, the question is asked, are cyborgs readying for a takeover of the Earth? I don't know. And just so you all know, our upcoming guest tomorrow night, we got Tracy Beans in studio. That'll be fun. Timothy Gordon's going to be on the air again on Monday, the 29th. Chris Ann Hall, August the 8th. I think Fleckus is going to, I should put this in right here. Fleckus Talks is back on August 2nd, next Friday, so that will be good. And more coming, more on the way. All right, ready for this first one? Here's a funny one. I love the Babylon Bee, as you know. It's my favorite site for satire. Headline, Bernie Sanders' campaign raises pay to $700 per hour by laying off everyone except Bernie. Washington, D.C., according to an official press release from the Bernie 2020 campaign, presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders will be raising his staff's minimum pay to $700 per hour. While some question the feasibility of the new plan, the release explained that this can easily be accomplished by laying off everyone except Bernie Sanders. Despite tirelessly advocating for $15 minimum wage in the campaign trail, Sanders had recently been the center of controversy after complaints by his staff that they were only being paid $13 an hour. Quote, once I was made aware of my staff's concerns, I took swift action to rectify the situation, Sanders explained. He went on to say that he cares so much about addressing income inequality that he immediately began to work on the solution from his third home in Vermont, rather than waiting until he had returned to D.C. on a charter jet. Many of Bernie's staffers responded enthusiastically to the announcement. Quote, to be honest, I don't really understand what he's saying about laying people off or what this pink piece of paper is for, said Bernie 2020 street team member Renee Schuler. But I really like the part about making more money. So there you go. It's easy to raise minimum wage when you can just force everybody else to pay for it. Or actually, you're just forcing everybody to go for broke and then destroy the jobs that was at least steady at one point. And that's that. If I'm a little tired today, it's because I stayed up until the wee hours of the morning listening to the Yankees go into this 14-12 slugfest with the Minnesota Twins last night. They won, but man, oh man, I almost turned it off twice because they blew it. And then they came back. So there's that. Here's a little something from last night when we asked the question, where does the law end? And I brought up the idea of the movie Cobra when thinking about the blatant evil that's going on in the world. And remember, tomorrow, the clinical study of evil is going to be a part of tomorrow night's show. But I got a call, or I got an email from a patron of the show and a supporter, Chris. And Chris says, my response to where does the law end? Well, evil must be punished. Living in a republic, we've trusted our proxy to government to ensure that evil is punished. When the republic rewards evil and the innocent are punished, or if government can't or won't protect people from evil, then the law has ended and violence is inevitable. The Declaration of Independence demands that we shake off the shackles of injustice when government betrays the people. Vigilantism isn't the answer, but taking up arms for the sake of the defense of the nation or self may be required. Having said the foregoing, as far as the law ending, that ending is not a place. Where
go lay down
is actually a time. It's when. It's when. Just my 2 cents from Chris. I like that one. I like that one. Really great insights. We got a very smart audience, and that is my favorite part about doing this as a job now, is that my sponsors and my audience are extremely smart. Very specialized people. You know what, we're going to start a little bit earlier tonight, but I will say this. I went into this a little bit on Monday night when Black Conservative Patriot was in. He's on his way back to the West Coast now, or Florida. I don't know where the hell where did he say on the air he was going? Like near the Disney area? Either way, I brought up the Green Book, or Green Book. It came out last year. I think it won some awards, and it got a lot of scorn from SJW, social justice warrior Marxist, and they did not like it. And I waited way too long to watch it. It's been out a year already, but hey, listen, I'm glad I saw it, because I'll tell you this, it was a great story. And this is why the left did not like this story, Green Book. Watch it this weekend. Seriously, watch it this weekend if you have a chance. It's up there in my favorite contemporary films now, because it's a unifying story. It really is. First of all, Mahershala Ali is amazing as usual, and I love that he's going to be the new Blade. So that's going to be cool. I'll definitely go see the new Blade. And Viggo Mortensen was awesome as well. And it's like, and the reason why it got me, it was funny. It got me choked up, especially toward the end, especially because the end ended with Christmas time. And Christmas is just, I love Christmas. I love scenes of Christmas, especially if you're going to put the scenes of Christmas in New York City, and New York City from decades ago. But it felt like so many of the movies that we used to get as kids were introduced to these characters who have strengths, but they also have vulnerabilities, and the writers were not afraid of tapping into those vulnerabilities. And you put these two people in the same place, where you have Mahershala Ali that plays a classically trained pianist, a black pianist, who is preparing to go on a tour throughout the Deep South. And you start learning throughout the movie why he does it. And it's to show dignity in the face of what needs to be changed. That it takes courage and dignity to try to introduce change to people, and not this overbearing hammer, this drilling, this hammer, this squishing people together, this forcing, that hypocrisy that Malcolm X talked about. You know, if you force somebody to tolerate you, that's hypocrisy. That's not brotherhood. And what you want to do is be able to open up people's eyes. And then Viggo Mortensen, who's like this salt of the earth, New York City bruiser type, a club bouncer from the Bronx, and to put them both together and to see a lot of the walls that they had built up with each other stripped away as the movie goes along, and it's very humbling. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful what they add, what the characters add to each other. There's no penance that needs to be paid. There's no self-flagellation, and because of the balance in this film, when you see these really painful scenes in the South, where you know that this was the way of so much. I mean, even up north too, in many places. But you know that this is where the culture was, a culture that was still in need of maturing, and we've done a lot of great stuff since 1962, as far as maturity in our culture goes. And because of the balance that these characters were portrayed with which they were portrayed, you really do. You get to see, and you get angry at the racism. You become saddened that this is the way that some people had to live, and that's, I remember growing up with that, to have that perspective, and to also be grateful that that is not the way it is anymore. And it wasn't something that came down on you like this crushing, like the net full of bricks in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you just feel this weight of guilt that you have to carry out with yourself out of the movie theater. Not like that at all. I'm telling you, you're going to love the film. And if you don't, tell me why. But I enjoyed it greatly. 7:11 p.m., I think that's enough. A shorter pre-show tonight. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. Give this episode a thumbs up, share it far and wide, and keep dumping those super chats on me, as I'll be answering them throughout the evening. Curious Carol already put one in there. No message, but a blessing nonetheless. Thank you so much, Curious Carol. Let's get started, because there's plenty of good stuff to be done. All right, be right back.
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
All right. Well, that's what I heard.
This is Max N. Caparato at 12,060 feet. You can get as high as I am by watching the flight.
Collectively shine our light on the darkness that we live amongst. It is time to claim our victory and restore this world as it was meant to be. We truly can achieve heaven on earth. We simply believe. Are we not the ones we've been waiting for? Is this not our destiny? Our call out to you. Find it in your soul to shine your light brighter than you have ever known. I call out to you. Make it clear. We are the protectors of our home.
A digital soldier. We have an army. Digital soldier.
Digital soldier on the scene. Dropping memes. Y'all know what to do. We collective, not you. You and I make you. The whole world thanks you. That they do. Not about I. Not about one guy. Not about man's time. No. It's about what's in our minds. There's a fine line between truth and lies while holding the front line. Go! We are an army.
Digital soldier. Digital soldier.
In it. So, let's get it started.
Digital soldier.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt. And when I say corrupt, I'm talking about totally corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. There is nothing the political establishment will not do, no lies that they won't tell. The political establishment has brought about the destruction.
As Democrats continue to foist this spectacle on the American people, as well as you, Mr. Mueller, The media first began spreading this conspiracy theory in the spring of 2016, when Fusion GPS, funded by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign, started developing the Steele dossier, a collection of outlandish accusations that Trump and his associates were Russian agents. Fusion GPS, Steele, and other Confederates fed these absurdities to naive,
they're gonna love
partisan
that.
reporters
Confederates.
and to top officials in numerous government agencies, including the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the State Department. Among other things, the FBI used dossier allegations to obtain a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. Despite acknowledging dossier allegations as being salacious and unverified, former FBI Director James Comey briefed those allegations to President Obama and President-elect Trump. Those briefings conveniently leaked to the press, resulting in the publication of the dossier and launching thousands of false press stories based on the word of a foreign ex-spy, one who admitted he was desperate that Trump lose the election and who was eventually fired as an FBI source for leaking to the press. After Comey himself was fired by his own admission, he leaked derogatory information on President Trump to the press for the specific purpose, and successfully so, of engineering the appointment of a special counsel who sits here before us today. The FBI investigation was marred by further corruption and bizarre abuses. Top DOJ official Bruce Orr, whose own wife worked on Fusion GPS's anti-Trump operation, fed Steele's information to the FBI even after the FBI fired Steele. The top FBI investigator and his lover, another top FBI official, constantly texted about how much they hated Trump and wanted to stop him from being elected. I hate him. And the entire investigation was open, based not on Five Eyes intelligence, but on a tip from a foreign politician about a conversation involving Joseph Mifsud. He's a Maltese diplomat who's widely portrayed as a Russian agent, but seems to have far more connections with Western governments, including our own FBI and our own State Department, than with Russia. Brazenly ignoring all these red flags, as well as the transparent absurdity of the claims they are making, the Democrats have argued for nearly 3 years that evidence of collusion is hidden just around the corner. Like the Loch Ness Monster, they insist it's there, even if no one can find it. Consider this. In March 2017, Democrats on this committee said they had more than circumstantial evidence of collusion, but they couldn't reveal it yet. Mr. Mueller was soon appointed, and they said he would find the collusion. Then when no collusion was found in Mr. Mueller's indictments, the Democrats said we'd find it in his final report.
I tried.
Then when there was no collusion in the report, we were told Attorney General Barr was hiding it. Then when it was clear Barr wasn't hiding anything, we were told it will be revealed through a hearing with Mr. Mueller himself. And now that Mr. Mueller is here, they are claiming that the collusion has actually been in his report all along, hidden in plain sight. And they're right. There is collusion in plain sight. Collusion between Russia and the Democratic Party. The Democrats colluded with Russian sources to develop the Steele dossier, and Russian lawyer Natalia Vesnitskaya colluded with the dossier's key architect, Fusion GPS head Glenn Simpson. The Democrats have already admitted, both in interviews and through their usual anonymous statements to reporters, that today's hearing is not about getting information at all. They said they want to, quote, bring the Mueller report to life and create a television moment through ploys like having Mr. Mueller recite passages from his own report.
Well, I'll tell you, they did create a television moment. It was a great, great thing. For the little time I was watching, because I don't think anybody should subject themselves to that kind of torture. I know that this is some people's jobs to be able to break this down and make sure that it's easily available to those of us who have to get on with other things. But my God. And what happened from there was just simply amazing. Simply amazing. Now, on yesterday's show, we opened up yesterday's show with a health article talking about how chili peppers, spicy diets could be linked to dementia. Okay? Well, Robert Mueller, I would hazard a guess that he eats a bowl of chili peppers for breakfast every morning. At least this morning he did. Okay? I was thinking about how I should title tonight's show. And for a moment, I was about to go with things that could double as, like, porn titles. Like, I was going to say something like, confused old man gets passed around at a house party. But then I decided against it, because obviously I'm suppressed enough. Going to have something like that in the title. But it was so bad. Now, either Mueller is playing dumb, he has suffered traumatic brain injuries in the last 3 months, or he didn't really have a significant hand in writing this report at all. At all. Okay, and honestly, I'm not close to half joking about any of those three options. It's probably a small combination of all three, in fact. I don't know. So, as far as the age-old question about the color of Mueller's hat, it is black, my friends. It is as black as the inside of a coffin on a moonless night. And he is a marionette, nonetheless. A marionette. And when I was watching this today, too, the other thing I kept telling myself is I finally believe 100% when Trump, there was a lot of speculation about why Robert Mueller and Rod Rosenstein was meeting with the president the day before special counsel was announced. And the president has been saying that Robert Mueller was coming for the FBI director job, and the president wouldn't give it to him. Said he wanted the job as FBI director. He had just fired James Comey. And now, I always thought that, well, maybe that's just a cover for something else. If this is some kind of a sting operation, who the hell knows? Maybe Mueller is, he has some kind of leverage being held against him, and he's being forced to, work alongside of whoever for whatever reason. We didn't know anything at that time. But now I believe Trump 100% when he says that Mueller came to him asking for the FBI director job. I believe it 100%. It is clear to me, or at least it looks most obvious, that Mueller wanted to run interference as director, but just had to settle for special counsel instead. Had to settle for it. Now, I have a couple of clips over here. Take a listen to this. Here's Doug Collins. Ready for Doug Collins? This ruined everything. Nobody's talking about treason anymore. Nobody's talking about that made-up charge of collusion. It's nothing. They're all talking about obstruction. Obstructing an investigation into a crime that was never committed. Because, like I always say, apparently Donald Trump has a fetish for being locked away in prison, that even though he knows the first investigation is going to turn up with nothing, he still needs to do something to get himself in trouble. Why not obstruct it? But we're going to get into that obstruction. Because what they're saying is obstruction is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Listen to this 8-second clip by, what's his name? Doug, what's his name? Doug Collins, here he is, listen.
At any time with the investigation, was your investigation curtailed or stopped or hindered?
No. Boom. 8 seconds. At any time during your investigation, was your investigation curtailed, stopped, or hindered in any way? No. Boom. 1 syllable. That's it. It's over. What was obstructed? They keep saying things. They keep saying things like, "Well, we have multiple indictments for people who are lying." Well, what are they lying about? I mean, it should be very, very easy to then from there see what they were lying about, and to see what the great conspiracy behind it was. It was inconsistent statements. You got people for unrelated financial crimes from 10 years ago over here. Nothing had to do with treason, but they claim that all of these ridiculous numbers of bodies they stacked up with these indictments over the course of this 3-year farce was evidence that there was fire. There is smoke, there's fire somewhere, and all of these people that we managed to rack up on process crimes are proof of it. We'll never know for sure. Really? know, will ya? Unbelievable. Now, here's Jim Jordan. This is another guy I'm going to play about 4 minutes of because this is stunning. This is even better than Devin Nunes. And then we're going to keep rolling. All right, take a listen to this.
The gentleman from Ohio. Director, the FBI interviewed Joseph Mifsud on February 10th, 2017. In that interview, Mr. Mifsud lied. You point this out on page 193, volume 1. Mifsud denied. Mifsud also falsely stated. In addition, Mifsud omitted. 3 times he lied to the FBI, yet you didn't charge him with the crime.
Excuse me, did you say one? I'm sorry, did you say 193?
Volume 1, 193. He lied 3 times. You pointed out in the report.
Which verse? Which verse? Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. Go to Deuteronomy there, Robert.
Why didn't you charge him with the crime?
I can't get into internal deliberations with regard who would or would not be.
Charge a lot of other people for making false statements. Let's remember this. In 2016, the FBI did something they probably haven't done before. They spied on 2 American citizens associated with a presidential campaign, George Papadopoulos and Carter Page. With Carter Page, they went to the FISA court. They used the now famous dossier as part of the reason they were able to get the warrant and spy on Carter Page for a better part of a year. With Mr. Papadopoulos, they didn't go to the court. They used human sources. All kinds of, from about the moment Papadopoulos joins the Trump campaign, you got all these people all around the world starting to swirl around him. Names like Halper, Downer, Mifsud, Thompson, meeting in Rome, London, all kinds of places. The FBI even sent a lady posing as somebody else, went by the name Azra Turk, even dispatched her to London to spy on Mr. Papadopoulos. In one of these meetings, Mr. Papadopoulos is talking to a foreign diplomat, and he tells the diplomat, Russians have dirt on Clinton. That diplomat then contacts the FBI, and the FBI opens an investigation based on that fact. You point this out on page 1 of the report.
Now, let me just say right there, as we're already 2 minutes into this 5-minute clip, that's how fast it goes by because it's so amazing. I said it, I went on Periscope for like 10 minutes when they went on a brief break. But if you've been watching this show, we've been doing this together for a long time, then you know that Mifsud is one of the people that we said, this guy is everything. When he went missing for all those months and nobody was reporting on him, kept saying, and where is Joseph Mifsud? This guy is everything. He's everything you need. I mean, there's so many things that take the whole damn thing apart. It's built on nonsense. But as far as that goes, remember, it was the first big pivot from Maggie Haberman, the New York Times, all of them. It might have been late 2017 or early 2018, spring, I forget when it was. But it was right around the time that we started knowing definitively the Russia dossier was garbage. We know where it originated from. We followed the money. We know exactly what was going on here. The Trump Tower meeting started making a lot more sense with Veselnitskaya and Glenn Simpson and all that. Everything started making a lot more sense. And right around the time that the media started realizing that the dossier was not salvageable, they had to pivot. What was the pivot? Crossfire Hurricane, Alexander Downer, Cocktails in London with George Papadopoulos. And why did George Papadopoulos have anything inside of his head for Downer to try to fish out of him? Is because it was whispered into his ear by a guy in Italy, a Maltese professor named Joseph Mifsud. And I was like, okay, this is getting even worse. It's getting even worse because that's when we started thinking, okay, well, is Papadopoulos a plant? Because we were traveling his genesis. I think he worked a little bit in Hillary's State Department. He was working on the Ben Carson campaign. So right there, we started thinking this guy could be a plant because number one, if he worked in Hillary's State Department and they made any kind of allies there, we know that the Hillary Clinton campaign had this Pied Piper strategy to elevate Donald Trump because they believed that he was the most easily to be beaten. So the first thing that they did was destroy people like Ben Carson. So to see a guy like Papadopoulos go into Ben Carson's campaign first and then leapfrog into the Trump campaign, I was just like, oh, that's something there. But regardless of whether or not he's a plant or a patsy or a plant turned patsy, who maybe outlived his usefulness and all of a sudden started getting flushed, and when he realized he was getting flushed, started saying, hey, I'll tell everybody exactly what happened. Doesn't even matter, because he proves the whole damn thing is nonsense. He was pretty much the coke mule for all of his crap. That was the analogy I used earlier on today. If the drugs, if the cocaine in this situation was, hey, we heard that the Russians have dirt on Hillary Clinton, then Joseph Mifsud was the one who put the cocaine into a condom and slipped it up George Papadopoulos' ass and sent him to London to have martinis with Alexander Downer, who would then try to find a way to get the coke out of his ass. That's exactly what it is. And they created a reason to then go to the FBI, which Downer did. And this is just, it's just it. They were playing this from multiple angles, hoping something would hit and that they would be able to complete their mission before it all fell apart. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
July 31st, 2016, they opened the investigation based on that piece of information. Diplomat tells Papadopoulos, Papadopoulos tells the diplomat, Russians have dirt on Clinton. Diplomat tells the FBI. What I'm wondering is, who told Papadopoulos? How'd he find out?
I can't get into the evidence you find.
Yes, you can, because you wrote about it.
I can't get into what I wrote. I can't tell you what I wrote. You already wrote it down. People are buying this. You see people reading the Mueller report on the train. I can't get into evidentiary, blah, 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 blah. You blithering idiot. God.
You gave us the answer. Page 192 of the report, you tell us who told him.
Ephesians. Switch over to Ephesians now.
Joseph Mifsud. Joseph Mifsud's a guy who told Papadopoulos, the mysterious professor who lives in Rome and London, works and teaches in 2 different universities. This is the guy who told Papadopoulos. He's the guy who starts it all. And when the FBI interviews him, he lies 3 times, and yet you don't charge him with a crime. You charge Rick Gates for false statements. You charge Paul Manafort for false statements. You charge Michael Cohen with false statements. You charge Michael Flynn, a 3-star general, with false statements. But the guy who puts the country through this whole saga, starts it all for 3 years we've lived this now, he lies, and you guys don't charge him. And I'm curious as to why.
Well, I can't get into it, and it's obvious, I think, that we can't get into charging decisions.
When the FBI interviewed him in February, FBI interviews him in February.
Can't get into charging decisions, but I can tell you here with a wink and a nod that if it weren't for the president being the president and the standing policies of the DOJ, we would have charged him. We would have indicted him. Wink and a nod. Can't get into charging decisions, but we can tell you what might be possible if he weren't president.
When the special counsel's office interviewed Mifsud, did he lie to you guys too?
Can't get into that.
Did you interview Mifsud?
Can't get into that.
Is Mifsud Western intelligence or Russian intelligence?
Can't get into that.
A lot of things you can't get into. What's interesting, you can charge 13 Russians no one's ever heard of, no one's ever seen, no one's ever going to hear of them, no one's ever going to see them. You can charge them. You can charge all kinds of people who are around the president with false statements. But the guy who launches everything,
keep it going.
the guy who puts this whole story in motion, you can't charge him. I think that's amazing.
I'm not certain I agree with your characterizations.
Well, I'm reading from your report. Mifsud told Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos tells the diplomat tells the FBI opens the investigation July 31st, 2016, and here we are 3 years later, July of 2019, the country's been put through this, and the central figure who launches it all
Come on.
lies to us, and you guys don't hunt him down and interview him again, and you don't charge him with a crime. Now, here's the good news. The The president was falsely accused of conspiracy. The FBI does a 10-month investigation, and James Comey, when we deposed him a year ago, told us at that point they had nothing. You do a 22-month investigation. At the end of that 22 months, you find no conspiracy. And what's the Democrats want to do? They want to keep investigating. They want to keep going. Maybe a better course of action is to figure out how the false accusation started.
Good suggestion there, Mr. Jim. Great suggestion. I like that suggestion. You think about this, what's going on, and we got another really quick clip now from Matt Gaetz, who touched on something that needed to be touched on. Really quick clip. This is a minute long, and then all the clips are pretty much done. Then we can just get into some other stuff. Take a listen to this.
In your report.
Well, sir.
Meanwhile, Director, you're quite loquacious on other topics. You write 3,500 words about the June 9 meeting between the Trump campaign and Russian lawyer Veselnitskaya. You write on page 103 of your report that the president's legal team suggested, and I'm quoting from your report, that the meeting might have been a setup by individuals working with the firm that produced the Steele reporting. So I'm going to ask you a very easy question, Director Mueller. On the week of June 9, who did Russian lawyer Veselnitskaya meet with more frequently? The Trump campaign or Glenn Simpson, who is functionally acting as an operative for the Democratic National Committee?
Well, what I think is missing here is the fact that this is under investigation elsewhere in the Justice Department. And if I can finish, sir, and consequently it's not within my purview, Department of Justice and FBI should be responsive to questions on this particular issue.
It is absurd to suggest that a operative for the Democrats was meeting with this Russian lawyer the day before and the day after the Trump Tower meeting, and yet that's not something you referenced. Now, Glenn Simpson testified under oath. He had dinner with Veselnitskaya the day before and the day after this meeting with the Trump team. Do you have any basis, as you sit here today, to believe that Steele was lying?
As I said before, I'll say again, it's not my purview. Others are investigating what you...
Not my purview. Not my purview. You're trying to determine whether or not Donald Trump committed treason. And the circumstances surrounding this vaunted Trump Tower meeting in June. And it's a great question. It's a great question how it was crafted. Who met with Veselnitskaya more that week? Was it Glenn Simpson or the Trumps? It is Glenn Simpson. The day before, the day after. Day before he went in and day after. And remember, Veselnitskaya had no business in that tower except just to be there. Her being in the room was everything because, of course, once again, the Trump Tower meeting was optics. Donald Jr. should never have taken the meeting. It was a stupid move because of the optics. The meeting itself was not illegal. No transaction that came from that meeting. Nothing came from it. Nothing about it. But it was optics. And they were building a case, circumstantial evidence for this that we are still living through right now. But that's not within his purview. That's not within his purview. Putting Paul Manafort on track to be in solitary confinement for 10-year-old financial crimes that everybody in Washington, D.C. is guilty of, that was within his purview, though, recommending him for prosecution, shit like that. This, which is actually important, but either way, listen, this is huge stuff today. It wasn't very good for anybody. You had people, and then you ask yourself, okay, those are the questions that people like Gaetz and Jordan and Ratcliffe and everybody else was asking out there. What about the other side? What were they doing? Whether it was Congressman Deutsch, a low T-shaped scrotum of a Democrat, asking, the most important question is, why? Why did the president want you fired, Don McGahn? The entire day, hours of questions that had to do with Trump's desire to fire Robert Mueller and Don McGahn's squeamishness around the idea of him firing Robert Mueller. Everything was Don McGahn. You know, that's what they wanted to do. So Republican members of the committee, they were poking holes in everything. The bias within the special counsel team itself. Joseph Mifsud, Alexander Downer, Stephen Halper, Carter Page, Jim Comey's admitting that the dossier was unverified even after it had resulted in a issuance of a surveillance warrant and a renewal of a surveillance warrant based on the unverified dossier. They went into how Veselnitskaya met with Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, many more times than she visited Trump Tower, and more. Even these little tiny jabs. I mean, listen, Mueller deferred to a couple of lines the entire day. He doesn't know, he can't discuss it further, or it wasn't within his purview of the investigation. And every last Democrat spoke about nothing but Don McGahn. Nothing but Don McGahn. And let me remind you about something out there. All throughout 2017 and 2018, I kept pointing out in the news cycle how every couple of months, I said, did you guys notice how every couple of months, from Fox News right on down to Lenny Letter, from Fox News right on down to Lenny Letter, when it was still a website, kept hyping up the idea that Trump may fire Mueller. Remember that? I said it was a mix of predictive programming and it was a lame attempt at reverse psychology to get Trump to fire Mueller. And why is that? Now, why is that? Very easy. Very easy to think about this, okay? Because they knew that there was nothing to Russia. That's number one. This entire operation's success was hinged on perjury traps and political booby traps that could be spun into an obstruction narrative. That's it. Well, they didn't get their firing. Trust me, they were very publicly concerned about Donald Trump firing Robert Mueller and almost like daring him to do it because they secretly wanted him to do it. If he would have fired Robert Mueller, he would have finally given them something that they could actually invest some real effort into. Okay? It would have looked awful. So they didn't get their firing. So now, 3 years later, they are being forced to settle for accusing the president of thinking about firing Mueller. Thinking about firing Mueller. A person he has every legal right to fire regardless of the optics. As President of the United States, as Chief Executive, he has every legal right to fire Robert Mueller regardless of the optics. Think about how pathetic and weak the Democrats' footing is right here. They would have had something to go on, at least create some kind of a stir and have some kind of momentum if he did go and give them a firing. And now, all these years later, when it's already run its course, they drag Robert Mueller before this committee for hours today. And they stomp on nothing but the idea that Donald Trump really wanted to fire Robert Mueller, who once again tells Doug Collins that his investigation was not curtailed, delayed, or inhibited in any way, shape, or form. And they want us to say that he was obstructing justice. It's sick. That's sick. That's sick. It's sick stuff right there. And the fact that Mueller stammered and stuttered and didn't know anything and seemed drunk all day made it just look worse. In fact, so that's just it. I mean, anybody who looked at this and said, if you are a never Trumper or if you are a lifelong Democrat and you don't like Trump for whatever reason, if you have more than 2 brain cells to rub together, how can you not look at this and say, geez, well, my party looks like a one-trick, 3-legged pony right now. Meanwhile, the other side actually those are real questions. And what the hell is this one thing they're obsessing over? This doesn't look good. We've gone too far with this. You have gone too far with this. We're going to take a really quick break. I want to start taking some of your calls, all right? Be right back. People should know when they're
online store, visit quitefranklypodcast.com.
Chiefy! All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I'm going to do now? You know what I'm going to do now? We detected copyrighted audio and video in your stream. Yeah, what was that? Bullshit. Already, what did I play? Nothing. A little bit of Rufus. So if you're watching right now and you have something you want to say, let's get around to it, shall we? 914-595-6953. Now, thinking about what we have going on right now and the synchronicities that we're dealing with. Remember last night, I put a little bit of a Ruth Bader Ginsburg theory out there? Well, I don't think that anybody at CNN is watching this show per se, but there was a little bit of a synchronicity that I want to get in on. Ready for this? Hold on. All right, I found it. Ready? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I am very much alive. Wednesday, July 24th, 2019. Thank God for that.
Hey guys, I got a guest. This is all because CPS is opening fraudulent cases. They don't want you seeing what that is. Sorry. Yes, we've got a big thing right there. It's not a normal car. That looks like some sort of tactical thing. There's no other police around here. Just the one tactical thing that seems to be actively moving its light. How lovely. Oh, yay, thank you. How nice. Dewey ... dash dot. That's all I know, so don't ask if I know any more Morse code than that. Alright, I'm going back downstairs to work. I'm gonna let you guys sit out here with your nice, pretty, flashing, shining lights. Isn't that a lovely guest? It's all because CPS is opening up fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases. I got medical records right here. Yeah, I know. They might be trying to intimidate it. I don't care. I'm not easily intimidated. In case you couldn't tell. Let me see. Are we still out here? Yep. We're still out here. Isn't this lovely? Could this at least be one of those cool vehicles that's not disclosed yet? If you're gonna go this route, at least give me something juicy. Don't give me more garbage. You know how I feel about it when you offer the people garbage. If you're gonna make it go this way, at least make it fucking glorious.
You know, that's a very PG, self-deprecating joke. I think you might actually get more, you might get more.
That's fine. I can take it.
I'm such a knucklehead.
Very, very Canadian sense of humor.
Well, you know, I don't discriminate against you, Mike, either way. So I'm just happy you're calling in. What else you got?
Awesome. Okay, well, I know I'm kind of late to this party, and I don't mean any disrespect to the family of Tracy Twyman, but just when I heard about how that situation went down, it just made me think about Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington and Kate Spade and a lot of those other kind of ritualistic quote-unquote suicides. Just seemed kind of weird to me the way that went down. Don't know if you have any comment on that.
Do you listen to Clyde Lewis at all, Ground Zero?
No, not familiar with that.
Here's what I would say, because Clyde Lewis was very, very close to Tracy Twyman, and I think the day that she was found dead, I know that at first it said that it was a suicide, but the day that she was found dead, she was supposed to be on his show. And I think that on July 18th, or I think it was the July 18th episode of Ground Zero, he spoke about her at length, especially what she had been working on in the months leading up to that appearance, and how she had a zest for life, and she was ready. She loved her work, and she had a lot going on, a family, and they don't believe this at all. And once again, she was, neck deep in looking into crimes against children on the internet and things that are related to Elsa Gate and a lot of other things there too. So that's the only thing that I have ever heard on it. I learned it from Ground Zero. So I would take a listen to that, Mike from Canada, and thank you so much for the call. Let's take a call from Thick Rick. What's going on, Thick Rick?
Oh, Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Good to hear from you again.
I got a quickie for you.
Okay.
Do you know what a dunsel is? D-U-N-S-E-L.
A dunsel? Well, as soon as you tell me, I'm going to remember.
It's a useless part of a ship. Okay? It's actually named after a maritime captain from probably American War era, who was a useless captain. Well, that word dunsel will now be replaced by Mueller. And I think the next thing that we have to anticipate is the Democrats basically declaring their once hero, Robert Mueller, to be incompetent and demand a new special counsel. That's what I got. Have a good night.
You know what, Rick? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, like I said before, in so many different ways, they're like that inflatable clown punching bag that you hit them. You think that you're really rocking them. You're giving them the full treatment, but they keep they keep coming right back up. To see some of the headlines, I know at this point it's just like it's really just circulating around such small bubbles. But to see some of the headlines, how today was definitive in what should be an impeachment proceeding that everybody can get behind, beyond me. I couldn't believe it, but they had to stick with it. First of all, remember that more than half of the people that were on that committee today were Democrats, and they had to sit there with a straight face and listen to people like Jim Jordan put together searing common sense and actually build a timeline from the origins of this nonsense. Now, nobody talked about the hacking of the DNC servers. Nobody touched it. So we'll see what that means, if there's anything else going on there. But there's a couple of things in between Roger Stone and Ed Butowski right now. We might be knocking on that door soon anyway. But as far as origin stories go, these guys out there, or most of them, there's the one woman congresswoman from I think Georgia that she did really well as too. But they're actually putting together timelines and they got the chronology down. And I'm just thinking, what do people like Adam Schiff really think inside of their heads? I know that they have their weird demon baby from Passion of the Christ poker faces on. You know, I know that they got their poker faces on. They're sitting there, and they know that there's cameras in the room, and there's probably going to be rolling of the eyes and shifting in the seat as if I can't take this nonsense anymore. Every shrug of the shoulders is part of the act. All right, it's like watching the whatchamacallit, The Prestige. He lives his act. That's what it is. But I know on the inside they have to be like, oh boy. All right. Well, just stick to what you know. Don McGahn, which is like chapter 40 of this entire story. They're going back to chapter 1 to see how this whole thing is ridiculous, and the Democrats are staying on a controversial, circumstantial thing that they can spin into something that could be perceived as suspicious in chapter 40 of the story. That's why I say go for the damn foundation. Stop arguing with people with nonsense that's up here. That's the whole point. Here's a couple of super chats. Chris Stewart says, not in my purview of my perv view. Okay. Winter Wind 89. Daily Beast just put out a story about the links between the Clintons and Epstein. So throwing them under the bus or...
So to catch you guys up on a little bit on what's going on right now. Long story short, Scott tried to break down the door last night. This is all because CPS is opening up fraudulent cases. They're upset. Scott tried to break down the door last night. I called the cops. The cops refused to write a report up. Scott then goes to the cops. The cops then decide to write up a report. They won't write up a report when I try to have one written up, but they write one up for Scott. And then they have some kind of bullshit warrant that isn't actually signed by a judge. So now they have some tactical vehicle right now outside of my house, outside of my windows. And this person who's in this tactical vehicle is on a loudspeaker right now talking about how they have an arrest warrant that's signed by a commissioner, not signed by a judge, based on the debunked testimony of Mr. McFalls, who has been disproven multiple times already. You know, they're completely ignoring medical records and stuff like that. So right now, CPS currently has a tactical assault vehicle outside of my house because Mr. McFalls has been putting up more testimony. Nothing that's actually signed by a judge, more stuff that's signed by a commissioner. So here we are right now with more bunk BS quote-unquote warrants, not actually signed by judges, signed by a commissioner who hasn't actually reviewed any evidence. The last time Mr. McFalls wrote another petition, it was pretty much the second I got my evidence, the hospital was like, send her home. So we got the police outside again, wasting more time and more resources yet again, because CPS is opening up fraudulent substance abuse cases. So right now, as of right now, I have, they claim to have a protective order, and when I tried to get a protective order last night, the officer wouldn't do it, but the officer did it for Scott? Yeah, no, that's not. But a commissioner did it for Scott, not a judge. A commissioner did it because an officer wouldn't take my testimony, would only take Scott's testimony. So it's a very difficult situation right now because this is all because CPS has been caught opening fraudulent substance abuse cases. For example, right now, because this vehicle right now is outside in front of the house, because CPS is claiming that people are testing positive for drugs when they're not. So you can see here, this says codeine, morphine, hydrocodone, hydromorphone, oxycodone, And CPS is claiming that I'm testing positive for drugs, but everything came back negative. So before CPS started opening their fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases, we've never had any sort of experience with the cops at all whatsoever. We've never had any issues with the law. And if these people in this tactical assault vehicle outside would take the time to bother to confirm the fact that there has never been an incident before CPS opened up fraudulent cases, then they wouldn't be wasting taxpayer time and money. But here we are with proof that Child Protective Services is trafficking children, and then we have this police assault vehicle, supposed police assault vehicle, outside in front of the house without a legitimate warrant, without a judge's signature, all based on the testimony of somebody who, well, has been caught lying multiple times. So, that's nice! So, here we are right now. They want to sit outside because officers are commanding me to go outside and be assaulted for a third time, all because CPS has been caught opening fraudulent substance exposed newborn cases. So, that's not going to happen. I'm going to hold on to this, and we can wait and see if these officers outside who are wasting taxpayer time and money want to continue on with this. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to my show. So they can keep talking, I'm going to keep watching, and I'm going to keep recording, and I'm going to defend myself, and I'm going to protect myself if you invade my home. I have the right to defend myself, especially from unlawful search and seizure. Now, there's been a lot of seizures since this whole thing started. Not just the seizures of my daughter, the seizures of my own, the seizures that I have developed. So we have the unlawful seizure of children. We have those children then developing medical seizures. And then we have parents developing stress-related seizures. So there've been plenty of seizures here. And if you want to try and cause another one, yeah, that's not going to happen. So come into this house, and there's going to be a lot of blood flying.
My question is, why was that same question not asked about what the Clinton campaign had to do with Russia involvement?
Well, I would
was not Clinton involvement in the campaign in Russia involved in the investigation.
Well,
that sounds like it's hardcore one-sided.
No, absolutely, and thanks for the call on that, Kenny. Absolutely, yes, it is one-sided. But then again, we've seen nothing but one-sided nonsense throughout this entire process. You've seen the people who are working underneath Robert Mueller. You see the people who had infested the DOJ. You see so much going on, and they're the same people that handled the Clinton case. Just made it quietly go away. The people who allowed her to go and be interviewed without being sworn in under oath, with her lawyers present, giving immunity to all of her staffers, not pursuing actual obstruction of justice. You see so much going on, and they're the same people that handled the Clinton case. Just made it quietly go away. The people who allowed her to go and be interviewed without being sworn in under oath, with her lawyers present, giving immunity to all of her staffers, not pursuing actual obstruction of justice when subpoenaed evidence was destroyed. It's all evident. It's all evident. It's all right in front of us. That's just what it is. So, it's as simple as that, and we'll see if the people who are actually able to make something of it are going to. All right, it's 8:04. We're going to take a really quick break, but we're going to have some great stuff playing. Awesome stuff playing in the break. Always fun stuff. All right? And when we come back, we're going to be talking about whether or not cyborgs are going to rule the earth by the end of the century. And then that and many of your calls. So make sure you keep coming in. Get them coming in. And if you like this show, ladies and gentlemen, please support the show right now. Give it a thumbs up. Share it.
Yep, we still got these people out here all by themselves saying that they want things to end peacefully, but don't really care at all about actual peace, ignoring actual evidence and actual documentation. You're going to be out there for a long time. I'm a very heavy sleeper when I need to be. I learned from being raped and tortured throughout my entire childhood. You know those children that you guys are forced to rape under threat of death for yourselves and your families? Yeah, I'm one of those children. I'm one of those children that you were forced to rape. And right now, the reason why you're outside in front of my house is because, as one of those children, I started coming forward about what I experienced as a child, trying to encourage other survivors to come forward and say, hey, look, we understand you've been blackmailed. We understand you've been put in a bad situation. We need your support and we need your help so that way we can expose this. Well, see, that's the thing, is they can't do anything. So, here we are. Negative drug test results, and that's why you're outside right now. Because Child Protective Services opens up fraudulent substance-exposed newborn cases. Tell people who are perfectly fine that they take their children in case of neglect, give their children to known rapists and pedophiles. The foster mother who currently has, you see, it's very interesting how I bring up certain things and they just want to talk all over me outside. They don't want you guys hearing certain things. Why is that? See, Claude, the great thing is it's actually not a legitimate warrant. It's stamped with a stamp by a commissioner. Now, for a legitimate warrant, you need a legitimate judge's signature. What this is right now is this is not a legitimate judge's signature. So if they want to come in and try something, I'm not letting them come in and try anything. I've gotten enough of them coming in. I've gotten enough of them assaulting me. I've gotten enough of them trying to cover this shit up. So I have two options. I can either go outside and give up and go out peacefully, or I can sit here, go down, kicking, screaming, and take as many people down with me as possible. I'm not giving up. I'm not going down without a fight. And none of you should either, because this isn't just about Iris, this isn't just about myself. This is about all of us. This is about each and every, not just American, but human on this planet who has dealt with any sort of a governmental overreach that has been completely unjust and unfair. That's what this is about. So I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to give up. Now, I am calm. I am perfectly calm. I have the evidence on my side. So don't worry about that. The only thing you should worry about is if somebody tries to break into my house. You should worry about what happens to them. So if anybody wants to come into my house, you should worry about yourself. Otherwise, leave me the hell alone. Leave us the hell alone. We want to live our lives in peace. We want to live our lives with the community around us. We want to have our children. We want to have our families. And we don't want to deal with corrupt governmental overreach. So fuck us. Leave me alone. Leave us alone. Let us live our lives. And then we don't have a problem. Until then, this is not going to end peacefully. If you want to escalate things, you can escalate things, and the people will respond in the way the people chooses to respond. I am responsible for no one but myself, and I'm responsible for no one's actions but myself. So if you choose to escalate things, that is your decision and your decision alone. Remember that. You want things escalated? Well, that's what you got.
Yes. Hey, you know who wrote this song? This song is called Monster. It's written by a viewer friend of ours, Solomon Benke. Streaming this off of his SoundCloud right now. I said, dude, thank you for sharing this with me. It sounds like something that would be on the soundtrack of True Detective. Gorgeous. Trying to turn things my way.
So what are we going to do now? Well, we knew that we'd have to go and we had to figure out some of what the hell was going to happen today. We knew that it was going to be unavoidable. We got exactly what we thought we were going to get, and then we go on with it. We move on with it. We just move on. Now we're going to take a lot more calls. Got a couple more super chats here. Simple Sandman says, it seems to me that it's demonstrable the Mueller lied to Congress. Is that punitive? Can he be brought up on charges? We need to drain the swamp. I mean, I don't know. There's so much. You want to talk about swamp draining? You're talking about many thousands. Many thousands. I definitely want to see people get what's coming to them. I would love to see them get what's coming to them, especially since we see how they have used and twisted this machinery to go after whoever the hell sticks up. It's like that old Japanese proverb, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. It's, that's exactly what's going on here. I would love to see that happen. But remember, the swamp draining, everybody, politics is downstream from the culture, as Andrew Breitbart said, and it should not be forgotten. We've got a country, we've got academia and the legacy media, and we've got moneyed interests in places that influence culture in arts and sciences and everywhere else that are infected by communists. Many of them satanic, whether they know it or not. They have drunk the Kool-Aid. We're talking about millions of people. This is going to require patience, it's going to require fortitude, and it's going to require education. Being able to actually go and do exactly what, even think about, it's pretty much almost like Green Book. The classically trained black pianist who is going through the Deep South in the early 1960s. Why? He could have stayed home in New York City, gotten paid 3 times as much to be in these clubs of people who are a little bit more wise to how everybody can get along and everybody has their place and it's all right. But why do that? It takes a little bit more courage, a little bit less pay, a little bit more abuse. But to go into the lion's den and to make a case for a world that could be different, to make a case especially to people who have fallen victim to an educational system and media and movies, Hollywood, all that stuff, who have been given this awful, awful idea about what freedom is, how altruism should be weaved into everything, radical egalitarianism, the leveling of all things as if you're going to be able to cure humanity itself of all of its ails and all of its shortcomings and all of its baser tendencies and all that stuff, to show people the beauty in real diversity. And how not only do you actually get to see diversity, like, for example, Europe. Europe used to be a fruit basket. Really, diversity. You know, Austria, Italy, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, all these different places, the Nordic countries. And it's being turned into a smoothie for multiculturalism. I don't know about you, but I mean, all those states right there had ethnic cultures, and they were all different, and they were all ancient as well, and they were being convinced through radical egalitarianism by the same people who are pulling all the strings and controlling all the banks, destabilizing all the third world countries in the world, creating the migrant crisis to go and tackle and destroy the last bastions of real progress in the world. It's very odd. Now, us over here, we don't have an ethnic culture, per se. Some people, the Marxists in the media, want to tell you that people are trying to introduce white ethno-nationalism into the fray here and bring something back. But we have a creedal culture. A creedal culture, and our creed is the Constitution. And that's why they're killing our history. That's why they're killing our history. And that's the real problem here. You know, It's not that we have a lot of corrupt people inside of the federal government, and the federal government is 10 times too large and needs to be completely destroyed. It's just that everybody on the inside is going to be working from the principles that they have grown up with. And that's why they always go after the family first. These ideologies always go after the family first. They always go after religion first. They go after the small town communities. They go after all of that. And they start making you think macro. They start telling you to give up the individual for the sake of the herd. They start selling you some kind of a utopia. It's all that's what's going on. You want to talk about drain the swamp. The federal government is just the tip. It's just the tip of it. We've got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. And the memes are great. They're great for knocking down walls and getting people a little bit like, a bucket full of cold water to the face. But we've got to start becoming the surgeons again. We got to start talking. We got to find new ways of introducing better ideas. So stop the dehumanization that is so prevalent. And speaking of dehumanization, this is from Sputnik News. Take a look at this. Cyborgs will rule the Earth by the end of the century, but won't destroy all humans, says one scientist. The idea of artificially intelligent machines coming to coexist and rule over, even destroy humanity, has featured prominently in science fiction and techno thrillers such as The Terminator, Neuromancer, Ghost in the Shell, and Blade Runner. But the father of the Gaia hypothesis says there is one thing many of these works have gotten wrong. The highly intelligent machine-based artificial intelligence life forms of the future won't necessarily rise up and destroy humanity. Dr. James Lovelock, one of Britain's most respected scientists and futurists. Every time I hear a futurist, I think about the people who are developing the sex toys now, the sex robots. Futurism. Futurism to me means, how many different inanimate objects can I put my dick in? Yeah, but can I have an orgasm with it? No, that's great. Can we come as well when we're using this device? We can. Okay, well, great. The future's bright. Thank you. Futurism. Lovelock, co-creator of the living
fraudulent motions and shit. So I'm not going outside. I'm not going anywhere. And I think you guys are going to have a long night. I'm going to protect myself for as long as I need to. Because the names I can name and the people that I know.
Of course. I mean, look at it. This is why I'm telling you. Whenever she brings up her criticisms of the Israeli lobby, I'm not going to give her brownie points for talking about how we have a foreign influence problem in this country, whether it be legislatively or financially, whatever the hell it is. I'm not going to give somebody like that brownie points. She's a snake.
Oh, goddamn. Dude, it's almost like she's implanted into the American political system from a foreign entity that seeks to destroy America from within, which they have previously stated on record.
Yeah. Well, Swifty, thank you for the call. That's great. Something
Hey,
we're all... yeah, go ahead.
One thing, Frank, I got to give a shout out to D. Swifty's girl. She's the sexiest woman alive. I love you, baby.
She sounds great.
All right, buddy.
All right, take care. Be good. Sexiest girl alive. Like, wow, really? Sounds awesome. D. Swifty and his girl. Gonna have a good night tonight. Let's take another call, then we'll go on another quick break. 501, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi, this is Curious Carol.
Oh, Curious Carol. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm fantastic. I'm very grateful for your super chat tonight. You started off the entire evening.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. I'm a big fan of yours. Been watching you for about, probably 9 or 10 months.
Wow, and you've stayed in the shadows this whole time. It's great to have you on finally.
Yeah, I like to lurk, and watch, and listen.
Good. Well, now what's on your mind? Because now you're in the Skype. I'll be picking up your call more often.
Oh, that works. I just wanted to say that all of this that's going on It's just a show. People need to not stress about it. It's all going to come to an end, and it's all going to come out in the end, and, you know, it'll all work out.
I like your optimism, and I like your steadiness there, and it's true. And it comes back to a little bit of what I found myself talking about in the opening of the second half, is that we have bigger fish to fry, and all of these the circus acts that are going on right now are very temporary. Yes, they might have long-term implications, especially if it gets the momentum going in the opposite direction. But we have to start looking inward. We have to start looking back toward history that's been taken from us. We've got to start reclaiming a lot of things, and we have to start reversing the rotation of the Earth, pretty much, because
I think a lot of the things that people have been taught and told for probably hundreds, if not thousands of years, has been just to control us.
Carol, if there's any time in our history that we have the opportunity to actually start shedding light on anything like that to that degree, it's right now. It's because of our ability to reach each other. I mean, I don't know where you're calling from right now, but there is no way in hell a person like you would be talking to a person like me on a show like this if it weren't for the age that we're living in. And
absolutely. The Great Awakening is happening.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call, Carol, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Do me a favor real quick.
Yes.
When you get a chance, you don't have to do it right now, go on Twitter and look up WNC Son, S-O-H-N, and look at the pinned post. It's directed at you. It's for me. Please DM me.
All right,
when you get a chance.
Oh, wait. So you tag me in something?
Yeah.
All right. So
it's my pinned post.
All right. I'll go to. Oh wait, hold on.
Actually, we can.
Yeah, tag me in it again so I'll go to my mentions later and I'll take a look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Later.
Bye-bye.
All right. We'll be right back.
It is time for this incredible woman to step into the role that she is meant to have. And we,
all of us, are going to help her get there.
Okay. Here she is! Hey guys! I've been talking so...
She didn't deny she sent us